Hi guys! Today we'll be recapping a manhwa called The Villain's Daughter-in-Law Has Limited Time. Please remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy the video, as it really helps our channel. Thanks. This is Laria Rosetree, a character from the novel The Great Deal of the Empire. While Laria was gifted with a cute face and a wealthy family, she was also born to a father who spent all his money on other women, and a mother who spent the rest of it on clothes. As our story begins, Count Rosetree and his wife have just passed away in a fatal carriage accident, leaving their only daughter behind. As if that wasn't bad enough, according to the novel, Laria is destined to die at just 21 years old. So you can see why the girl who reincarnated inside her body is a little ticked off. I mean, seriously, a sickly orphan child with just a few years to live? How much worse can it get? The answer is worse, actually. Because Laria's extravagant parents have left her with a ton of debt that some very angry extras are already demanding she repay. They have no sympathy for her loss and storm the funeral asking for their money back. Thankfully, they are interrupted by a gorgeous man named Duke Kara-Odin Ivan Icarde. Quite the mouthful, but he's handsome enough that we can forgive him. The Duke Icarde had a relatively peaceful life until the day his wife died, when he suddenly turned into a power-hungry maniac and took his place as a villain of the novel. In the book, he even manages to become head of the imperial family and gets his son married to the princess. He thought he had it all until the female protagonist, Princess Elani, ruined everything by falling in love with the male lead instead of his son. Now, you might be wondering what this mysterious Duke is doing at her parents' funeral. I'm not sure if it's more self-interest or pity, but he's come to offer Laria his son's hand in marriage. Seems a little manipulative, since she doesn't have anywhere else to go and is up to her eyeballs in debt. But it turns out the Duke's late wife and Laria's late mother were very close. He says he's taking her in for her sake, but who knows what his real motive is? With no money, no prospects, and only a few years to live, Laria has no reason to refuse. So she follows him out and hops into a carriage, bound for the Icarde estate. They waste no time with romance. The marriage certificate is submitted to the palace on the journey. And with that, Laria Rosetree officially became Laria Rose Icarde, wife of a man she's never met and a daughter of the notorious villain. What a way to start her new life! Although, it's not all bad. Her bedroom is crazy luxurious for starters, and she's immediately assigned her own maid named Lisa. So far, this is all going according to the original plot, but Laria is hoping it doesn't stay that way since, she's not going to live. In the book, Laria's elder brother Fred returns from his travels in the East after her funeral and kneels before her grave, sobbing with the knowledge that he could have saved her. He says the cure for the disease is to eat 10 fruits from a certain tree every day for 5 years, which sounds pretty intense. It's also kind of impossible since the tree in question is very rare and getting 10 at a time is unheard of. Or at least it was, until Laria looks outside and sees the exact fruit she needs. Well, that was solved quickly. For the next 3 months, Laria is left alone in the house with Lisa. At the end of that time, the Duke is set to return to pick up Evan, her husband, who has been at the academy since he was just 6 years old. Damn, the Duke really is a cruel character. He's also extra cruel because he's the only person alive who knows about Laria's condition, and that's why he took her in, because he knew she'd only be alive for a little while longer. And in the meantime, he could use her marriage to his son as a chance to subdue the rumors of him trying to get closer to the imperial family. But things won't be the same this time around because Laria has her special fruits. So long as she continues to take them in secret, she can stay alive. The only problem then will be avoiding the Duke's attempts to kill her if he does go that far. Wow, we've only just started, but already things are so political. I don't know about you guys, but my head is spinning. Laria asks the Duke if she can ride in the carriage with him to the academy. Like a true villain, the Duke has absolutely no idea why she could possibly want to spend time with him. When Laria claims she wants the two of them to get closer, he says nothing, but he does accept her request. Laria really just wants to show him that she's still ill, since he made a comment about her looking healthier than last time. But once they're inside, it becomes very awkward very quickly. Laria tries to make small talk and discovers that Evan actually has no idea he's currently married, which is hella messed up. She sucks up to her father-in-law, saying if Evan looks anything like his father, she'll be pleased. And shockingly, that actually earns a smirk from the Duke. At just the right moment, she coughs, spilling blood on her handkerchief. Any normal person would be concerned, but the Duke completely ignores it. So she doubles down and works even harder to suck up to him, saying she wants to live happily with her new family. Again, almost no reaction. But the Duke does offer her his own handkerchief so that she doesn't have to use her bloody one again. Baby steps, people. Baby steps. Finally, they arrive at the academy. As far as Laria can remember, Evan Icarde is a handsome side character who resembles his father, especially in how empty and emotionless he is. But he's also a carbon copy of the Duke. Despite being a year younger than Laria, he looks like a young Cara Odin already. The Duke introduces Laria as his wife, which Evan just accepts and walks up to her, his face blank. When she congratulates him on graduating from the academy, he does the exact same. What is with this kid? Does he feel anything? Actually, he does have one emotion, and that's anger. A few months back, he beat up the son of a Viscount for talking behind his back. Most parents would probably have something to say about that, but the Duke straight up does not care. He tells the kids to look out for one another and to get along well, and with that, they're back in the carriage and on their way home. How underwhelming. I thought these guys were supposed to be villains. Why are they so boring? They get home late at night. The Duke takes Evan for a chat, probably to explain his evil plan about Laria dying off, while she runs to the Okershire tree for her daily medicine. While the boys are scheming, she makes a plot of her own to stay alive and secretly save money, so that one day she can escape and be free of the Icarde family. She walks back to her bedroom to find a load of Evan's diaries stacked on her desk. It contains his deepest emotions, like how he misses his mother. Aw, poor baby. He is still young after all. They're both just teenagers. As you might have guessed, it turns out Laria walked into Evan's room. It's a good thing he walked in now, and not while she was reading his diaries. Actually, they're going to be sharing a room from now on, since they're engaged. At this point, I'd really like to know what their actual ages are. I don't know about you guys, but these kids seem way too young to be sharing a bed. Of course, Evan immediately cuts off any potential romance by telling her he doesn't want a baby. Okay, dude, no one said anything about kids. You're not even married yet. Poor Laria is mortified until it comes out that Evan thinks that babies are born from holding hands in bed. Oh my god. Must be a pretty useless academy if they didn't even teach the birds and the bees. But at least this way she doesn't have to worry about any funny business. After reading his diary and hearing his adorable confession, Laria is suddenly a lot less afraid of Evan. He seems like a copy and paste version of his father, but he's still a kid, and a lonely one at that. So as the time passes, Laria tries her best to look after him, stroking his hair and encouraging him to have lots of sweeties. They're having afternoon tea together one day when she catches sight of something in his newspaper mentioning a horse racing event. In the book, that event was the setting for the male lead's first appearance. Seymour, the man destined to fall in love with Ilani, the protagonist, is supposed to make a bet at the race and earn a fortune in an instant. As part of her plan to eventually disappear, Laria needs to get her hands on as much cash as possible. That way, when she vanishes, there will be no trouble for Evan, who can marry the princess and live happily ever after. Even though that's 7 years in the future, it's never too early to start earning. So Laria asks if she can attend the race. Evan not only agrees, but he even offers to accompany her. Kind of throws a spanner in her get-rich-quick scheme, but just because he's there doesn't mean she can't place a few bets. While he heads off to get ready, Laria receives a delivery of nearly 100 luxury handkerchiefs. Apparently, her father-in-law ordered them after he saw her coughing up blood in the carriage. Maybe he does have a heart after all. Touched, she pops into his office to thank him and to return his own handkerchief, which he lent her. She also wrote a card to express her gratitude, including a rudimentary drawing of their little family. The Duke isn't very impressed with the drawing, but he has listened to her earlier request and is trying to take a day off so that the three of them can go on a picnic together. Since he's acting a bit more like a father for once, Laria decides to push one step further and invites him to accompany her and Evan to the races. The next day, the unlikely trio arrive at the racetrack. Evan is a little grumpy because he was up all night studying the history of horse racing so that he can impress his fiancée. He tells her all about the different breeds, which ones are faster and stronger than others. While he's chatting away, the representative of the event comes over to congratulate the young lovebirds on their impending nuptials. The representative guides them to the best seats in the house, trying to convince them to throw some money into the races. Meanwhile, a shady-looking figure is watching them from above, taking a particular interest in Laria. This guy looks like textbook villain. I mean, come on, he's literally surrounded by people in hoods. Oblivious to the mysterious man above, Laria tries her hand at betting with a single coin given to her by the Duke. Laria thanks him wholeheartedly. Since she's not an adult yet, they haven't budgeted for her spending money. But her father-in-law tells her that if she wants cash, she can draw him a picture and he'll pay her for it. Does that mean he secretly loved the drawing? He is, however, a little surprised that she wants to bet all her money in one go on just one horse. To anyone else, it would seem like a very reckless move. But Laria's knowledge of the original plot is basically a superpower when it comes to things like this. Seymour, the male protagonist from the novel, was originally an ordinary citizen who did everything he possibly could to become a noble and earn himself a title. And the first spot where he began his social climb was at this racecourse. But Laria plans to interrupt his massive fortune by making the same bet, ensuring that they both earn half of the original winnings. Just as she predicted, the horse she put her money on came in first place. Because it was a horse with no previous racing experience, the return is crazy high. The event organizer even says Laria might get her name in the paper. He hands her a check right away. Laria takes almost all of it except a single gold coin, which she hands back to her father. Which is kind of cute, but I think I'd be mad if I were the Duke. I mean, she just won like thousands of coins with his money. He deserves at least double. The representative comes over to ask how Laria is settling into the Icarde household, clearly taking this as a chance to butter her up. So she turns the opportunity around to shower her new host with compliments, beating him at his own game. Or she was. Then the Duke cracks out this awful wordplay joke about mouths and feet. It's so bad that Laria doesn't even react for a moment. But the representative immediately starts laughing his butt off. Some people just take things too far. Somehow, the Duke doesn't notice that he's being openly brown-nosed. He's busy watching Laria walk away with blood on her handkerchief, probably worrying about her illness becoming public. Once they return home, Laria is praised by all the house staff for her luck in winning such a huge amount of cash. Lisa even wants to get more money from the butler to order her some new dresses, in red, to match Evan's eyes. I guess now that they're making public appearances, they'll need to look their best as a couple every time. It's sweet of Lisa to be so attentive, but it also makes Laria a little suspicious, especially when she starts asking questions about what she's going to do with the money. Laria says she'll donate it to sick orphans who have no money, which is technically true, since she's keeping it all for herself. Lisa is very touched at the idea and says Laria reminds her a lot of Lady Matilda, the late Countess Icarde. While she was alive, the mansion was a completely different place, and it's clear that all the staff miss her. Lisa cuts off suddenly when she realizes Evan is within earshot, since she doesn't like talking about his dead mother in front of him. Fair enough, to be honest. But seeing him act all cold and stiff makes Laria want to bring him out of his shell. To distract him from the whole dead mom thing, she praises him for the bets he made today and admits that she really enjoyed going out as a family. As usual, he doesn't really respond. The next morning, he is off to the library at dawn, once again studying his butt off for literally no reason. Seriously, has no one told this kid that he's already graduated? Later in the day, Laria is enjoying looking at her big fat check and wondering how she can get more money ASAP. She spots her father walking by in the gardens and calls him over to ask if she could go into town tomorrow. He agrees to let her go, which is a surprise to Evan, who is deeply suspicious. He would probably follow her if he didn't have a meeting with the Knight's commander about his swordplay lessons. Laria rushes off to enjoy the sights and scenes of the town, while Lisa and two of the family's guards awkwardly trail behind her. But for the first 2 hours, she just walks in and out of shops, never buying anything. She's trying to make her escorts as bored as possible, so that when they arrive at their last stop, they'll encourage her to get whatever she likes. And that last stop is, in fact, a dessert shop with a queue about a mile long. Laria uses Evan as an excuse, saying she wants to get him something sweet, which is a total lie. He's already said 1,000 times that he hates sweets. Since it's one per person, they'll all have to line up and wait their turn. The poor knights might have protested, but one of her coughing fits comes on at just the right time, convincing them to take up a spot in the queue. While her guardians are preoccupied, Laria hunts through the streets for one building in particular, with a very ugly horse statue outside. Once inside, she announces that she's looking for a man named Sven Bestian, and demands a meeting right away. She sure can be bold when she needs to be. Meanwhile, Evan has been meeting with the Knight's commander, Ludva di Cardo. He already heard a lot about the young Duke's skills, Evan won first place in the young swordsmanship contest a while back. But Ludva isn't impressed. Actually, he's kind of rude and says that excellence is simply expected of someone like him. Evan is about to give him a piece of his mind when suddenly the commander says that it was his fault his mother died. Whoa, out of nowhere? Kinda weird to just slam that into a random conversation. What is this guy's aim? Clearly, he has a very personal grudge about the Countess's death and holds Evan personally responsible. So much so that he says Evan should never be happy. And after dropping all that emotional baggage on him, Ludwig demands he come for swordsmanship lessons every day from breakfast until dinner. Wait, I'm so confused. Is he trying to motivate the kid? Because that's one heck of a weird tactic if he is. Back in town, Laria has been given access to the Dark Intelligence Guild and granted permission to see Sven Bestian, their leader. And what do you know? It's that guy from the horse race. He's already pretty impressed with her. Not only did she pique his interest at the race, but she also knew his real name. He's about to formally introduce himself when suddenly the guild's cat climbs onto Laria's lap. Seems pretty chill, but Bestian's reaction says otherwise. He doesn't explain himself, though, so Laria goes ahead and explains her plan. With her earnings, she wants to buy a title and a manor, but all of this should be done in secret. She suggests the manor be in an area named Manhua, far from the capital and with relatively cheap land. It's also secretly a major mining opportunity, but since no one knows that yet, Laria can be the first person to discover the veins and make even more cash. If this all seems a little too good to be true, that's because it's actually Seymour's original plan from the story. In order to buy her own safety, she'll have to directly step in the way of his own plans and dreams. I have a feeling that's going to come back to bite her someday. But thirdly and lastly, Laria has one more request, far more important than the first two. Her final request has something to do with the original plot, in which the Duke Icarde is going to seek out a doctor for help with Laria's condition. She wants Bestian to provide him with a member of the guild so that she can communicate easily with them in future. Bestian agrees. If he is successful, she will be assigned a doctor under the pseudonym Serena Moristo. He then hands her a check for 100 gold, 10 times the price she asked for. He wants more information about her, so Laria is left with no choice but to answer. It seems like a test to determine the rest of their business relationship, so Laria bites back. Instead of money, she wants information from him in exchange for her own. Info from the guild leader of secrecy is probably worth a lot more than 100 gold anyway. They decide to exchange one answer each, and Laria goes first. Her first question is about the deceased Countess Icarde, the famous Matilda that she's heard so much about. Bestian seems to know everything. He tells her the story of their marriage and how Matilda won the Duke over with her kind and warm-hearted personality. Apparently, back in those days, the Duke paid little attention to government affairs and was quite protective over his darling wife. So he wasn't happy to find out that Matilda and the deputy commander of the Knights once went to town together. The deputy commander is now the current commander of the Knights of Icarde, Ludva, the very man currently running Evan ragged in the training room. So that's why he's been so cruel to Evan, because he was in love with his mother. Anyway, whether Matilda liked him back is another question entirely. The rest is history. She became incredibly weak after getting pregnant and eventually died in childbirth. Now it's Bestian's turn to ask a question. Surprisingly, he wants to know what she thinks of the Duke Icarde. Laria could just lie and say he's a great father-in-law, but this is the leader of the Secret Information Guild. She wants to build a good relationship with him. So instead, she tells him the truth, that the Duke has the potential to shake up even the imperial family someday. Spoiler much? Satisfied, Bestian lets her go, agreeing to do his best with her requests. Laria runs back to Lisa and the Knights, who have successfully procured the cakes. As thanks, their little madam gives them each a small bouquet of flowers for waiting in line on her behalf. She's also returned with some kind of box, but when Lisa asks about it, Laria just smiles and says it's a secret. Maybe a present from Bestian? Back at the Icarde Manor, the Duke is working hard as usual. Just like Laria suspects, he's already plotting his way to the top of the heap and knows that to take the imperial family, he will have to find a way to get Elani on his side. And it turns out that Laria was also right about Lisa, who has been reporting back about the young girl's condition to the Duke. So far, he has no idea that she's actually getting better. While he's doing classic evil villain stuff in his office, Laria suddenly appears at the door with a cup of tea and the cake she bought in town. There's one for Evan too, but he's busy with the Knight's commander. She also gives the Duke a book that she bought with some of the prize money. Another coughing fit quickly overcomes her, so she excuses herself and runs out. The moment she's gone, the Duke summons Lisa for a full report. Lisa explains that she didn't buy anything for herself, and only seemed to care about the cakes and the books she just handed over to her father. Nothing suspicious, or at least, Lisa doesn't seem to think so. The Duke dismisses her, but before she leaves, he tells Lisa to buy everything that Laria looked at today. Literally everything. He's totally whipped for this girl. Though, I don't know how he can be expecting her death and slowly warming up to her at the same time. Seems twisted if you ask me. Laria is lying in her bedroom when Evan returns from his training session, covered in mud and even more emotionless than usual. If that's possible. He's going to get up early tomorrow morning to go again, but before sleeping, he spots the cake she brought from town. She also points out the book waiting for him on the desk, falling asleep as he picks it up. Inside is a little note. Laria always feels sorry for him, reading such difficult books, so she bought him an easy one, with pictures inside. Kind of a weird thing to give a 14-year-old who just graduated, but okay, Laria. Evan doesn't seem to care about the book half as much as the note she left. When she wakes up in the middle of the night, he's still reading it. Maybe the bit about reading to him in bed got Evan all flustered. These Hecate men are so predictable. The next morning, Laria is still thinking about the strange way Evan behaved last night. She suspects that something happened during his swordsmanship lessons, but before she can get suspicious, Lisa arrives at the door with a load of boxes. She did as the Duke asked and bought all the things Laria showed an interest in while they wandered around the town. Without realizing it, Lisa has revealed that she is in fact the Duke's watchdog. But Laria doesn't react, and instead expresses how grateful she is for her father's generosity. Lisa also reveals that the Duke is assigning her a dedicated doctor very soon. Kinda puts a damper on the gift, since it seems the Duke is doing exactly what he did in the original plot. And that means he's still betting on her to pass away. So all of this is just fake kindness for the time being. At least, that's how it looks to Laria. 3 days later, Evan and his wife-to-be have settled into a weird kind of routine. They rarely see each other because he's so busy with his lessons. He leaves before she wakes up and only comes back after she's fallen asleep. That morning, the long-awaited doctor arrives and introduces herself as Serena Moristo. Although the fit is a sleigh, she doesn't exactly look like she went to medical school. And as expected, Serena is not a real doctor. But she bypassed the interview with a load of fake recommendations and a forged diploma. So the Duke thinks she's real. He's ordered Serena to report on Laria's condition every day and keep her health a secret from everyone else, including her own patient. Of course, since Serena is on Laria's side, she agrees to tell the Duke only what her mistress tells her, that the disease is rare and it will take her life within 6 to 7 years. Serena is surprised that she's being asked to undertake such a huge lie to someone as important as the Duke, so she asks her mistress for one request. She wants to have a relationship with one of the maids. More than one, actually, from what it sounds like. Laria is a little put off, but tells Serena to do whatever her heart desires. As you might have guessed from her outfit, that's Serena's real expertise. Not medicine, but charisma. I guess she wants to flirt with as many people as possible and maybe get some information out of them as bonus. Doesn't sound like a bad gig, if you ask me. Ignoring her very forward request, Laria asks her fake doctor to pass on some information to Sven Bestian. Last time she was in town, she smelled something burning behind the cafe and wants him to take a look. What they don't know, but Laria does, is that Sven's mother lives in that building, and recently a strange wizard has moved in and is trying out some crazy experiments. In the book, the entire building gets blown up because of him, killing Sven's mother and devastating the guild leader for life. This way, Bestian will trust Laria a lot more and be grateful to her. When Serena reports back to the guild, Sven tells her the truth about the cat, that it responded to Laria when she came to visit. It turns out that innocent-looking kitty is actually a demon named Neo. So a positive reaction from him is incredibly rare and suggests that Laria is a very special kind of person. Bestian has also had a visit from Seymour after he won the horse race money. It's a little suspicious that he did the exact same thing with his earnings as Laria, but for now, they plan to just watch and see what happens next. Back in the mansion, Laria is sitting in bed eating her magical fruit cure when Evan suddenly bursts into the room. She quickly stashes the fruit and summons Lisa for some hot tea while her fiancé washes up. They haven't exchanged more than 2 words in days, so this evening she is determined to break that streak of silence and find out what exactly is going on in these swordsmanship lessons of his. The first strange thing she notices once he's out of the shower is that he's still wearing long sleeves, even in the summer. Then she asks him to read her a bedtime story and he says no and tells her to stop waiting up for him. He gets up, so Laria grabs his arm, causing him to suddenly yell out in pain. Okay, I think we all know what's going on here. She pulls his sleeve down to reveal a patchwork of deep purple bruises. Immediately, she gets very upset. He's bruised all over, even on his torso. Evan tells her this is pretty standard for swordsmanship lessons and gets very closed off after that. She knows that if she pushes him any further, he'll close up for good, so instead she starts to cry. Because he's not a total monster, Evan apologizes for acting so cold. But they don't get any further after that, so they head to bed. Laria can hardly sleep. She's so busy worrying about her fiancé. 2 days after, she's still feeling just as dejected. Even Serena picks up on her sorrow and asks what's the matter. She's hardly slept the last few nights, trying to give him hugs while pretending to be asleep. Since he thought she was just tossing and turning, he let her get close, allowing Laria to look beneath his dressing gown and discover new bruises and sword marks every night. Of course, she doesn't know much about swordplay, but it seems heavily suspicious that he's only getting injured in the places people can't see. She decides that whoever is training him must be doing this on purpose, and doing it cleverly. She wants to search his training ring and find out who is taking his lessons, but she can't make too much commotion or else the Duke will be displeased. Her father has been very quiet and busy the last few days. Serena reported her condition to him again, but this time there was no answer, which comes as a bit of surprise. Laurie was expecting him to tell the hired doctor not to treat her condition, but so far, he said nothing of the sort. In other news, Serena brought her a present from Sven. Thanks to her tip-off, they caught the wizard doing his experiments before any harm could come to his mother. As a thank you, he has gifted her a very beautiful bracelet. Serena also informs her that Seymour came in to ask for the exact same requests about titles and estates as she did. Laria just tries her best not to react, until they are interrupted by the second round of presents from the Duke. Lisa and Serena butt heads almost immediately, fighting over what styles fit their little madam best. While they're bickering in the corner, Laria asks the knights about swordsmanship class under the excuse that she wants to get stronger. She asks if she would get hurt a lot, and they assure her that training isn't supposed to leave any serious injuries. They also reveal that Evan is getting private lessons from the knight's commander, finally giving Laria her culprit. She suddenly remembers what Sven told her about the knight's commander and Matilda back in the day, and puts the pieces together. She confirms the location of their training with the knights, while Serena watches on, impressed at her interrogation skills. They tell her that Evan's training takes place behind the Rose Garden, a place that people don't often seem to visit these days. Lisa says it's because Matilda used to take care of that garden, so people are careful to avoid it. Before Lisa and Serena can start fighting again, Laria picks a dress and announces that she has to visit her father to thank him. Meanwhile, Evan and the knight's commander are battling fiercely behind the rose bushes. Evan is giving it his all, but he's still just a kid. It's easy for Ludva to kick him to the floor. Doesn't seem like a very fair fight if the commander has a real sword and Evan only has wood. This guy is so messed up, seriously. It must be easy for him to treat the boy so cruelly when he looks like an exact copy of his father. He loves to kick him when he's down, constantly using his mother's memory to shame him and throw him off his guard. Despite the emotional and physical abuse Evan is suffering, he always gets back up and fights harder every time. But the commander's words are getting to him. Already, he believes that everyone in the mansion blames him for his mother's death. He even thinks he's not worthy of someone like Laria. Ugh, this poor kid! He doesn't deserve any of this. The Duke was in his study, reading up on recent news about Princess Ailani, when he remembers the day he found the Countess Rosetree weeping by his wife's grave. She admitted to her husband's affair and to the chronic illness that Laria had been diagnosed with. It was only a short while after that the Countess and Duke Rosetree both passed away, and the Duke came to collect their daughter to be his son's bride. The plan all along was to let her quietly pass away out of sight of the rest of the nobility, but these days, the idea of her death makes him sad. Yeah, it should. Is this man finally becoming capable of regret? Remorse? He's such a robot. Laurie appears just in time to guilt trip him further, thanking him for all the gifts he sent her. In return, she prepared a small gift in the form of a drawing. This one is only slightly better than the last. I know she's only a teen, but shouldn't she be a little better than that? It looks like a toddler made it. She makes an innocent comment about how they haven't been together as a trio since the horse racing and invites him to come and watch Evan's swordsmanship practice with her. He refuses at first, but then Laria pulls out her sob story about how life at the Rosetree Mansion was always so lonely, and she was hoping things would be different here. Atta girl, Laria. That'll get him for sure. Then she pulls out a few of her classic coughs and the deed is done. The Duke agrees to come out with her, so Laria leads him through the garden toward her poor, beaten husband. She's still acting sweet and clueless, but she knows how to catch the Duke's attention. He didn't even know that his son was having private lessons with the commander, and when he hears that they practice behind the rose bushes, he immediately seems concerned. As you would be if you found out your son was training with the man who hated you most. Or maybe he doesn't know about Ludva and Matilda? Still acting sneaky, Laria asks the Duke to be quiet since she wants to watch without them noticing, hoping to catch the commander in the act. They find the commander over by a set of flowers, explaining how much care Matilda put into them. He's running the same old spiel about how the mansion has gone to ruin since Matilda's death, and it's all Evan's fault. Laria is infuriated, for real this time, especially when she sees that the commander is using a real sword. She looks behind her for the Duke, but he's already sprinting over to deliver the commander a punch. He's double as furious as Laria and starts beating Ludva while Evan covers his wife's eyes and ears. The knights soon come running over to find their commander on the ground, and the Duke standing over him with bloody knuckles. He sends Ludva to jail, but then he turns on Evan and screams at him for allowing such disrespect from a subordinate. What? That's not right at all! Tell him it wasn't his fault! Tell him he's not responsible for his mother's death, you idiot! Evan has taken everything his teacher said to heart. He even tells Laria to stay away from him because he's not worth the pain. Thank goodness his fiancée is there to set him straight. She tells him all the things his father should have and says she's proud to be by his side. He apologizes for pushing her away and falls into her arms. She helps him to his feet, hoping to escort him back to their room. But a sudden urge to cough comes over her. She doesn't want him to see the blood, so she suddenly runs off, leaving the kid to wonder what he did wrong. Evan is left with Cobb, one of the estate's attendants, who he asks for advice about his love life. The kid is a little disarmed, but once it becomes an order, he does his best to answer Evan's confusing questions. His biggest question is how to express affection for a woman he desires. The classic question. It's basically not something another teenager can answer, but it seems like he's finally softening to Laria. Speaking of whom, back at the guild, Serena bursts into Sven's office to give him some good news. Not only has their current target been given the stamp of approval by the resident demon, but she's also proven herself very capable as a manipulator in the Duke's own household. She seems very impressed by Laria and wants her on their side. Now that she knows her plan is to run away, Serena wants to help her however she can, and apparently, that includes finding her a good man. Has everyone in this series forgotten that she's literally 14? Leave the girl alone! She's got bigger things to think about than boy trouble. Serena also doesn't seem to care that she's due to be married. Since divorce is illegal, it's apparently very common to have relationships outside, especially for those in arranged marriages. Sven lets her in on the whole plan to have Laria escape and get her own land while Evan is eventually married off to Princess Ailani. Serena introduces a potential obstacle, pointing out that Evan might fall for Laria in that time, which would be a disaster. If that happened and then Laria faked her death, he would be destined for the same fate as his father, who lost his love and never moved on. So Bestian gives his right-hand lady strict commands not to encourage any kind of romance, or else it will ruin the whole op. Back at the estate, the young lovebirds are in their bedroom. After the shock of a pretty intensive day, Laria offers to read Evan a bedtime story to help send him to sleep. At first, he protests because he says that's for kids. But as usual, his pride crumbles quickly, and soon he is leaning on his fiancee's shoulder while she reads aloud to him. Once the story is over, Evan pulls her close and suggests they fall asleep like this tonight. Damn, homeboy is getting more slick by the day. He even tells her not to worry about getting pregnant. He'll make sure not to hold her hand. Oh my god, I can't. Just before they fall asleep, Laria tells her future husband not to listen to anything Ludva told him, especially the stuff about his mother's death. But Evan refuses to believe her. He's not even mad, he just truly believes that it's all his fault. But he does reach out and tell her that when he sees her, he feels what it must be like to have a real family. Aww, well, at least we're making some progress. The next day, Evan starts his successor classes, and Laria wakes up to a load of new gifts from the Duke. This time, it's jewelry. Beautiful gems and necklaces and bracelets. It's probably as a kind of thank you for telling the Duke about the situation with his son. That's also the reason Lisa thinks she's in trouble. Apparently, Ludva is now being tortured in prison by the Duke himself, which honestly, fair enough. When Serena arrives later, she reveals just how strict his sentence is. A doctor who gave the Knight Commander a secret sip of water was tortured himself as punishment. I guess he should have known better than to mess with the Duke of Acarde of all people. Serena also tells Laria how Evan is still struggling in Ludva's absence. He has trauma now from the blue uniform that the commander used to wear, so when the new one arrived, he had a little panic attack. So now the Duke has ordered that no one wear a blue uniform in front of his son. Late that night, Laria is eating her usual secret fruits when she spots the Duke out for a late-night walk in the gardens. She calls him over and asks what he's up to. But in her usual Laria way, she doesn't wait for a response and instead thanks him for the gifts he sent. Somehow, the conversation turned to the blue uniforms and Evan's reaction to them. Instead of actually addressing the trauma his son is suffering, the Duke has banned all blue uniforms, even those that belong to other Count's knights. They walk slowly toward Matilda's old rose garden, as the Duke admits that Laria reminds him of his late wife more and more every day. Now that they've broken the emotional wall between them, he also admits that he wishes he'd been a better father to Evan. He seems to think that whatever damage is done can't be reversed with just a conversation, and therefore there's no point. Classic father behavior, everybody. Instead of trying to heal wounds from the past, the Duke is putting all his faith in some mysterious grand plan of his that will ensure the happiness of both Evan and Laria. Not entirely sure what that could be when his plan A is still to have her die quietly, but okay. The next day, Evan is especially doting on his little fiancée. As a way of apologizing for the whole Ludva incident, he gives her extra special treatment and promises to be a better future husband than before. He even makes time for a morning walk together. They wander through the gardens, hand in hand, while Evan acts completely out of character. With incredibly convenient timing, Cobb, one of the attendants from earlier, pops out and starts hyping up Evan, literally singing his praises and all his different achievements from the academy. Laria isn't stupid. She remembers his face and that he was the one left chatting to Evan after the Ludva incident. This is obviously a setup. But instead of laughing at them, she decides to play along. She starts acting really impressed and praising him in return. It's kinda cute, actually. Evan seems to get all flustered and starts blushing. Between all the encouragement and the servants saying she reminds them of Matilda, it seems Laria is beginning to take on the role of mother around Evan, which is a good thing for his mental health. I don't know if it's so good for their relationship, but whatever keeps him happy, right? Later in the day, Serena comes to visit and asks Laria if she's planning to run away at some point in the future. The young girl is a little surprised, but answers honestly. Serena declares that the guild will help her disappear when the time comes. Of course, Laria is a bit suspicious that a group as dark and mysterious as the Bestian Guild are willing to offer help with nothing in return, but she doesn't question it. Then, a boy named Radian Cares is brought in, at the request of the little madam. He's going to be a very famous painter someday, so she wants to buy some of his paintings while he's still undiscovered. You see, this is what I'd be doing if I wound up in a novel. Getting rich. Once again, this decision will cross paths with Seymour and the main plot of the book. But she's not worried about that just yet. Laria makes a deal to buy all his finished paintings and asks him to keep the purchase a secret. She's about to leave, but Radian asks if he could paint a portrait of Laria. There's no reason to refuse, so she agrees. Little does she know that Seymour is right behind her. In fact, he already made a stop at Radian's store and found him missing, called away to the mansion of Duke Ecarde. Yet another coincidence, but luckily, Seymour doesn't know that the person who keeps overlapping with him is not the Duke, but actually his daughter-in-law Laria. Of course, Sven Bestian doesn't outright say who had bought the rest of the estate Seymour was after, but he can figure it out. Holding onto the newspaper clipping from the horse racing, he begins to get competitive and wonders which of the Ecarde clan has secretly become his rival. At the moment, his top guess is Evan. In fact, he thinks these similarities are so incredible that it must be fate. He decides to meet Eva, his predestined bestie, however possible. Kind of a weird take on what is essentially just one big coincidence. Back at the estate, Laria and her crew have moved outside for Radian to memorize her in a better spot. She acts natural, sitting in the sun and reading a book while the artist watches her from a distance. When she next looks up, it's not Radian, but Evan who appears in front of her. Once again, he's running late to training, just so that he could give her a box of cake that he picked up from town. What a cutie! He's done a complete 180 in the last few days, and I'm totally here for it. They're having a very sweet heart-to-heart while Radian just sort of stands there like a spare part. Eventually, Evan turns back to his father's son and gives him the death glare for staring at his fiancée. Laria tries to move him along, but Evan is really not having it, and in the end, Radian just has to run as fast as he can in the opposite direction. Oops. Anyone else feel like Laria really could have stepped in there and saved them a misunderstanding? But she only makes it worse once he's gone and tells Evan off for being so high and mighty in front of a commoner. Acting all dramatic, she tries to storm off before he catches her at just the wrong moment. because she's got a cough coming on. And it's a big one, too. Blood flies everywhere, and immediately Evan begins to panic. He's never seen her cough before, so he thinks she's been poisoned or something and calls for a doctor. Oh no, how is she going to solve this one? She can't tell him that she's fatally ill. After his mother, that would be too much for him to bear. Laria starts by calming him down and admits that she's been this way for a long time now. That's probably the least reassuring thing she could possibly have said. But then it gets worse. She passes the responsibility to his father and tells Evan to ask his dad for the details. Right, as if the Duke is going to be able to act sensitively about this. Before he runs off, he assures her that no matter what it takes, he will find a cure for her somehow. Uh-oh, Plan A is starting to fall apart, people! Serena, who had been flirting with one of the knights, returns to find Lisa and Laria in utter distress. As usual, they immediately begin to fight over the girl and who deserves to take care of her. Eventually, they let her inside to change out of her bloody clothes, although the fighting doesn't stop. Lisa is soon summoned by the Duke and the Prince, who are probably having a very tense conversation somewhere else in the mansion. Alone together, Serena dresses her young mistress while asking about the cake he brought her. Considering he queued for an hour to get it, she starts worrying that Evan might be falling in love with little Miss Laria. She encourages her to cut off any trouble at the roots before it can grow into something bigger, and of course, she has a plan. When they are summoned themselves, both girls enter the Duke's office together. Evan has been told it's not a fatal disease, which is good. Serena even goes so far as to announce that Laria has been improving under her care. But Evan isn't easily convinced, so the fake doctor suggests that she go to recuperation for an intensive treatment, to really speed up the healing process. This is all part of her plan. Get Laria away from Evan for a while, allowing her to get more money for her escape fund while managing her new estate. And by some small miracle, the Duke Akari has a villa in Verotna that is very close to Manhua, the land that Laria recently purchased. It seems like the perfect plan. If only Evan wasn't so suspicious. Luckily, Serena is a great actress. She delivers a performance worthy of a medical drama, putting her fake career on the line to guarantee Laria's recovery, so long as she's allowed to recuperate away from the mansion for a while. Another well-timed cough from Laria seals the deal. The Duke agrees, and Evan promises to stay put so long as he can visit from time to time. While eating her oclasia fruit that evening, Laria overhears the Duke suddenly yelling in a nearby room, crumpling up a ball of paper in his hands. Well, that's hella suspicious. He tosses it out the window, allowing Laria to read it. It seems to be a letter from the local temple, which invites the nobility to come and receive blessings when they are poorly. It seems like they are summoning Laria to the temple to receive a blessing, which might seem sweet if it didn't also come with the pressure to donate a lot of money. The temple has a huge amount of power in the empire. They could even sway the imperial family if they wanted to. So the next day, the Akade family have no choice but to make their way over to the temple. Well, the Duke and Laria do. Evan can't enter the temple because he wasn't baptized. In case you were wondering, yes, that is very unusual and deeply suspicious for the only heir to a very powerful duke. If someone isn't baptized, they won't be able to receive the blessings of any priest for their entire life. The Duke doesn't explain this odd decision. He only asks Laria to keep it a secret since the public aren't aware. She agrees, but doesn't hold back her concerns. She uses her usual tactic of buttering him up with compliments about how hard he works and how capable he is at achieving his goals. Somehow, that gets an answer out of him. The Duke admits he's been after some kind of relic, probably something to do with the artifacts that the High Priestess of the temple gives to new priests. A noble who isn't a member of the temple, no matter how important, could never get their hands on such a relic. But now that Laria knows what he's after, she can help. They soon arrive at the temple, where the priest once again refuses to sell whatever it is the Duke asked for. But Laria finds another opportunity in a boy named Marcel, who she remembers from the novel. Supposedly, he's very powerful, already one of the top 20 priests in his bracket, whatever that means. Once everyone is introduced, the guests of honor and the holy men all head inside for a big meal. I'm not sure how religion works in this country, but that seems a little odd to me. Laria asks to pour the wine and accidentally, on purpose, spills some over Marcel. This gives her the perfect opportunity to follow him out and have a private chat, where she immediately accuses him of being a fake. Without another word, he takes off Marcel's golden ring, which immediately changes his appearance. It's a magical artifact that generates holy power just by wearing it. So his appearance and his famous talent are all clearly fake. It all comes from the ring. In the original story, he took on the identity of a priest because he likes the luxury of the holy lifestyle. Laria decides to blackmail him, promising to keep her mouth shut so long as he agrees to do one thing. She wants one of the silver relics he received when entering the temple, the ones that her father-in-law desires. They're not supposed to be powerful for anyone who isn't a priest and is therefore useless. But I'm sure the Duke has a plan for it anyway. Marcel has no choice but to agree. They return to the others and head next to the prayer room. After signing a fat check to the temple, the head priest blesses Laria with his holy power. It's supposed to be pretty chill, but every time she receives a blessing, it hurts. Not wanting to be accused of witchcraft or anything weird, she keeps quiet until the end of the blessing. Then she asks if Marcel can make regular visits to her home under the guise that it will help cure her disease. The head priest hesitates until she offers to make a donation for every visit. After that, he's immediately on board. Once her and the Duke are headed home in their carriage, she reveals the holy relic she got from Marcel and hands it over to her father. Ask and you shall receive. At least, that's how it works when you got a super cunning daughter anyway. Evan is waiting to welcome them as soon as they return to the estate. Actually, it kind of seems like he might have stood in that exact spot ever since they left. He makes some excuse about joining them for tea time since he's far too exhausted to go to practice today. Yeah, right, buddy. The Duke was meant to join them, but clearly he and his son are too competitive to be in the same room with Laria, so he ends up taking care of some urgent business with his butler instead. Evan and Laria are having tea together when Mirande, the butler, arrives with a letter from the academy. They want him to come and participate in a swordsmanship contest for current students. Since he won first place last year, it only makes sense that they would invite him back. It also means he'd be one of the judges and hand over the trophy at the awards ceremony. So it's kind of a big deal. But of course, Moody Pants Evan doesn't want to go. Apparently, it takes a week, and he doesn't want to lose that much time with Laria before she goes on her retreat to the villa. Laria firmly tells him that even though he's very nice to be around, his presence isn't going to magically cure her, and she'll be gone soon anyway. What's the difference in separating a little earlier? But she knows what will really get him on side. If he visits as the previous winner, his picture will be in the newspaper. Laria gushes about how proud she would feel to see him in the news, and suddenly, Evan decides he will go after all. He's so predictable, this kid. Across the mansion, the Duke has also just received a letter from one Mrs. Livier. I'm not sure who this lady is, but clearly she's not a friend. The Duke literally spits out his tea after hearing her name. Once he's recovered a bit, he tells the butler to assemble every servant in the mansion because his aunt will soon be making a visit. Countess Livier, better known as Olivia, is the Duke at Carday's only remaining ancestral family. In the original novel, she's a wicked villain who constantly tormented the protagonist, Princess Alani. All the servants are already scared about her impending arrival. Lisa takes extra care over Laria's dress because she's worried the old lady might scream if it doesn't fit right. Jeez, and I thought the Duke had a bad temper. When Olivia arrives, Laria is as polite as can be and desperate to make a good impression. But it's not worth much. Olivia has a lot of opinions about Evan being married to a sickly little girl and decides to scream them all at her nephew before they even got inside the house. She also has a problem with the Verotna plan and wants to send Laria somewhere closer so that they can keep an eye on her. And then she just invites herself into the house and announces that she's going to stay until everyone is properly educated. It's a total nightmare for Serena's plan, so they have to come up with a way to get her off their backs, and quick. Serena settles for a charm offensive, relying on her main skill, her charisma. She's hoping that if Olivia grows to like Laria enough, she will let her go to Verotna, where they need to be in order to oversee the Hanua estate. Laria also has a few tricks up her sleeve, so she asks Serena to procure a few items and bring them the next time she comes to the mansion. I'm not sure what items could possibly soften someone as mean as Olivia, but between the two girls, I'm sure they can figure something out. After their plan is put in place, Laria begins Phase 1, tea time with Granny. Olivia isn't exactly happy to see her. Laria acts all sweet and innocent, asking if she has time for tea with her future granddaughter-in-law. The old lady says that would be a waste of her time, but actually coming to this mansion in the first place was a waste of time, so she might as well have some tea. Laria is pulling out all the stops with a perfect little strawberry cake, the recipe for which has been handed down by a generation of family bakers. Olivia doesn't have much of a reaction, but the young lady can tell she's pleased. Just like the Duke, she clearly has a sweet tooth. She is surprised to hear how much effort Laria went to in order to secure her favorite cake from the days when she lived here. Laria says she wants to repay the Duke for his kindness in taking her in and paying her family's debts. That gratitude extends to Olivia too, and since she's a sick little girl, this is the best she can do to return the favor. Already, Olivia seems to be warming up to her, though she's trying her best not to show it. She is also still suspicious that all of this is an act, in which case she won't allow her to marry Evan. At just the right moment, Laria starts having a coughing fit and drops to the floor. Actually, this is all a well-timed excuse to test the floor tiles. From banging her fist on the ground, she discovers an empty space below. I don't know why no one is questioning the fact that she suddenly got over her coughing fit, but then they send in a servant to pull up the tile. Laria discovers an ancient box lying exactly where she was expecting it to be. Not wanting to pose a risk to anyone else, she offers to open it herself, causing Olivia to fly into another panic. But it's just a book, inscribed with the name Soleil Carde et Carde. Soleil was the founder of the Carde household, literally thousands of years in the past. Any documents or relics from that time are priceless due to their rarity, and there has long been rumor of a book written by Soleil laying somewhere on the property. In the original story, Seymour walks into the Accarde household, bets the Duke that he can find it, and walks away with an entire gold mine and a priceless relic for free. But in this time, it's Laria who's found it, which makes her something of a household hero. Olivia even gives her a hug. That's right, we've gone from passive-aggressive staring to straight-up skinship. I think it's safe to say this mission was a success. The Duke and servants are summoned. They confirm that this is the diary of Loladia Accarde, complete with a magical seal. Since Laria found it, they let her decide what to do with it. She suggests they donate it, and immediately Olivia goes a bit hysterical. But Laria explains that if it went to the academy, the research conducted could be vital to both the family and wider society. And wouldn't that increase the Accarde reputation? Not to mention it would save them a fortune on maintaining and protecting a 1,000-year-old book. As if all of that wasn't enough, Evan is still attending the academy, so it would directly benefit him to donate it. After convincing her elders, Olivia takes back her decision to send Laria to Livian. Instead, she's going to take personal care of her social status, which the Duke has so far neglected. Even if she goes away for treatment, they still think she'll come back. So Olivia is already going above and beyond to make sure that she returns as one of the most popular and beloved members of the nobility. And the way she's going to do that is by teaching her how to seduce men. Uh-oh. Abort mission. Abort! Olivia is true to her word and visits Laria's room that evening with a full kit of makeup and a new wardrobe. She orders the maid to put on more makeup and sharpen her eyes so that she doesn't look so gullible. Even with all the pomp and glamour, she still looks more innocent than intimidating. Olivia seems frustrated. Once again, she is reminded of young Miss Matilda, who was despised by the other noble women because they were jealous of her. Suddenly, it clicks into place. Olivia hasn't come to visit because she is angry about Laria, but because she's worried for her. She doesn't want the same thing to happen twice. Laria thanks her grandmother for her support and for caring so much about both Matilda and her granddaughter-in-law. The conversation then turns to Evan. She assures the elder lady that the two lovebirds get on quite well, and she asks what Laria likes most about him. Of course, he's an accomplished young man. What's not to like? But what slips out of her mouth are not his accomplishments, but the fact that he's cute. Laria thinks she's messed up, but Miss Olivia sees it as a sign that she really likes him. Oops. As if that didn't make her feel guilty enough, Olivia even says that she feels assured that Laria will do what's best for Evan. If only she knew all the schemes in that little pink head of hers. Fortunately, she's saved from responding when a maid returns with some letters. According to Olivia's wishes, the Duke has picked out some candidates for Laria's godmother, and many of the nobles have sent letters in response. Laria is impressed by all the popular people on the list, but as you might expect, Olivia isn't satisfied. I think we all know by now, she is a pretty tough critic. And the Duke knows it too. He explicitly ordered that Laria be the one to choose, instead of his picky aunt. That puts her in a tricky position, but at this point, she knows how to handle her elders. So she makes her decision. She wants Olivia to be her godmother. I mean, it makes sense, doesn't it? Who else would be better suited than someone in the family who has her best wishes at heart? Normally, closer relatives can't take the position of godmother, but you don't hear Olivia complaining. It means they lose a chance to gain more power for the Accarde family, but Laria isn't thinking about them. If she still wants to escape one day, it's a bad idea to get tied up in the politics between noble families. Laria formally asks Miss Olivia to take the position, and she accepts. Actually, she seems really happy. Although, I can't tell if it's because she likes Laria or if she's just obsessed with authority. With that out of the way, Olivia readies her carriage, preparing to leave. They try to convince her to wait for Evan, who will be returning from the academy later that day, but she won't hear it. Before she leaves, she hands Laria a fan. It's so flamboyant that everyone would recognize it as Miss Olivia's. No one would dare mess with her while she's holding this. And with that, she's off. Literally seconds after her carriage has disappeared, Evan comes running home to greet his fiancée. And he bought a truckload of newspapers to show her all the pictures of him in the dueling competition. Isn't that cute? He's a little worried when he finds out that Olivia became her godmother, but he seems more concerned about her health. Laria assures him that she's perfectly fine. He's also worried about her trip to Verotna, mostly because he still doesn't trust Serena. Who can blame him? She doesn't exactly look qualified. She overcompensates a little while trying to convince him, but Evan trusts her enough to let it go. That night, while Laria is sleeping, he sneaks off to do some training and finds Cobb crying in the corner. It turns out the girl he likes has been two-timing him. Three-timing him, actually, since she's apparently been flirting with the dungeon guard and the chef, too. Kind of girl boss behavior, honestly. As we already know, Evan isn't great at the whole sympathy thing, so he starts walking away. But then he hears Cobb mention the name Serena. Oh no, has our favorite fake doctor been playing with hearts? Before we can find out what kind of mess Serena has been causing, we see a flashback from 15 years prior. A young Duke Ecarde comes running up to Matilda after hearing about an incident with Vice Captain Ludva. He didn't like how close the young knight was getting to his wife and wanted to fire him, but at Matilda's request, he held back. Now, standing before a very beaten Captain Ludva in jail, the Duke wishes he had followed his gut instinct all those years ago. He has with him the book Laria found today. Apparently, it has some gruesome ancient torture methods inside that he wants to try on his captain of the guard. Sometimes I forget that this guy is supposed to be a villain, but right now, he really looks the part. The next morning, Evan is acting a little suspicious with his fiancée. He keeps mentioning Serena and asking if there could be anyone better suited for the position. He even wishes he attended medical academy so that he could do the job himself. Anyway, he doesn't push the subject. Instead, he mentions the new furniture he ordered for her mansion, and even planted more ecclesia trees like she asked. In return, he asks her not to be nice to other boys, not even so much as a smile. Between Cobb and Ludva, he's learned that there's never any reason to let another man flirt with his girl. Well, that sounds possessive as heck, but it's kinda cute coming from the mouth of a kid. Their conversation is interrupted when Laria is summoned by the Duke's study. He says she can go to Verotna, but only if he sends a party to announce her presence to the people living nearby. He's worried they wouldn't take care of her otherwise, especially since she's weak and has to depend on other people. Well, that's what he thinks anyway. He even offers to send Evan with her, but Laria squashes that idea at once. Over the next couple of days, she notices that Evan has been acting strange. He's been spending most of his mornings with her, since apparently his training sessions have been conveniently canceled for the time being. He's obviously trying to get in between her and Serena, which is really inconvenient now that they're in the middle of planning Verotna. Laria suddenly has the horrible thought that he might have a crush on Serena, but doesn't get to ask him about it before the Duke summons her again. On the walk to his office, Serena warns her to be careful around her fiancé. She's also noticed how weirdly he's been acting, and she's starting to get worried. When they arrive at the Duke's study, he asks about preparations for her welcome party at Verotna. Laria is having a dress made by the best tailors in the Empire, and their head butler has already sent the most experienced maid to prepare the villa. They're making quite the fuss, since the Duke believes that a smaller population will cause more trouble. That's why they're hosting the party, to give a good impression to the local nobility and make sure that Laria isn't looked down upon. She's starting to get tired of all the attention and concern, but she still keeps up her innocent act and bids the Duke goodbye. Just as she's about to leave, he awkwardly asks if she wants any money. Both of them know she has enough from the horse race to keep her comfortable, so Laria reaches for what he really wants, a picture. She promises to draw him a new picture each week, and in return, he can send some cash. Sounds like a sweet deal. I wish my father was like this. She ends up drawing them all in one day and gets a bag full of gold for her effort. Meanwhile, in Verotna, a young lady with suspicious pink hair is just hearing about the party to be thrown for a young Miss Laria Rosetree. Does that face remind you of anyone? I think we're about to run into some serious drama. Back in the city, Laria is picking from a very fancy bunch of dresses. Although, it's not easy with Serena and Lisa constantly fighting over which accessories she should wear. They end up dividing the choices between them, and Lisa asks what she would like. Laria isn't interested in fashion, but she's interested in wealth. So when Lisa mentions that they have permission to spend as much as they like, she asks for a dress with as many diamonds as possible, sewn into places that can't be seen. Honestly, girl, I'd do the same. The jewelers have already picked out the best of their stock when she arrives. Laria nearly squeals with delight when she sees all the priceless gems and jewels laid out for her. There's even a rare emerald necklace that has been off the market for 3 centuries. The fact that they would even consider renting that out to a 14-year-old is insane. But her shopping spree is interrupted when a sudden and unexpected guest arrives. It's the pink-haired girl from Verotna. She runs straight over to Laria and gives her a hug, acting like they're best friends and apologizing for only showing up now. Wait, what? This girl is majorly sus. It turns out she's her father's cousin, Karen Maria Rosetree. She must not be very close to the family, considering she didn't even turn up for the funeral. Who would have guessed that she'd come running once she heard about her cousin's wealthy new family? Laria isn't very impressed, but she can't deny their striking resemblance. They sit down to tea with the Duke, who is just as wary of this newcomer as his daughter-in-law. He straight up asks if she needs money, but she denies it all, claiming that she's only there for Laria. Yeah, right. She clearly wants to try and move in with her cousin, pretending to act as her guardian in order to join the cushy lifestyle with the Ocarde family. But Laria doesn't want to let her in. Who knows how many other pink-haired relatives would come running if she did? But she doesn't have any good reason to send her away. Thinking fast, Laria starts to cough and asks Karen for her help. As she walks her through the mansion, she relies more and more on her newfound cousin, eventually telling Lisa to take a break. From now on, Karen will be looking after her. That ought to do the trick. She sticks it out for the first couple of days, but anyone can see this is not what Karen was expecting. She was hoping to entice the Duke and end up a duchess, or at the very least a governess, with a few maids to tend to her. She wasn't expecting to become a glorified maid herself. But Laria is pulling out all the stops, always clinging to her and asking for hugs. Eventually, she tries to take a walk with Evan, giving Karen the perfect opportunity to search for the Duke. That is, if Serena didn't step in first. She decided to nip this problem in the bud, so she tells Karen that in her professional medical opinion, Laria's disease is contagious to her blood relatives. Every time she coughs or hugs her, the possibility of infection raises and raises. Now Karen is freaking out. When Laria returns from her walk and gives her another hug, she tries to push her onto Evan instead. Laria plays dumb until her new necklace arrives, the priceless emerald one that she saw at the jeweler's. I don't know if anyone else noticed, but Karen is wearing the same one. Of course, hers must be a fake. Laria knew exactly what she was doing when she ordered it, and already Karen is falling right into her trap. She doesn't want to get sick, and she doesn't want to be poor, so she decides to swap it out with her fake one before leaving the Ocarde estate with the excuse of a dying friend. How ironic. She's just about to get in the carriage when Lisa comes rushing out with the necklace, which has cracked in the box. And we all know diamonds don't crack. Suddenly, all eyes are on Miss Karen, who is obviously wearing the real necklace. The situation is too perfect. There's literally nothing she could say at this point that would make her seem innocent. Evan immediately steps in to protect Laria, like the sweet little knight that he is. The Duke offers to throw Karen in prison if she doesn't hand over the necklace. Of course, she gives it up and gets kicked out with very little consequence. She got lucky if you ask me. After all the drama has died down, Laria gets to lap up the sympathy from her fiancé and father, who have no idea that she set this all up by herself. They even end up giving her pocket money to make her feel better. What is with this girl? It's like whatever she does, she just ends up richer. Finally, the time comes for them to go to Verotna. A small army of carriages are prepared full of servants, luggage, and supplies, but before they take off, Laria has a surprise visit from Priest Marcel. He came to give her a blessing, and once she hands over a big bag of gold, he promises to come and visit her in Verotna. As she's waving him off, Evan arrives looking all jealous, reminding her not to get too close to someone of another gender. Wow, he really is the jealous type, huh? The Duke and his son say their goodbyes, with Laria promising to give her young fiancé a reward so long as he studies hard at the academy. While they're on the road, Laria announces 2 important things that must be done when they arrive in Verotna. One is sending a letter to Priest Marcel, and the other is to send him more money. There's something she needs him to do. Well, that sounds suspicious. At the Ocarde estate, the Duke is already missing his precious daughter's interruptions. His son, too, is lying awake in an empty bed, missing his fiancée. Is anyone else kind of sad? I mean, what will they do when she actually leaves for real? Anyway, they finally arrive at Verotna the next morning to a mansion the size of a cruise ship. They even copied the garden from the original Akarde estate, since the Duke knew she liked it so much. Which is pretty handy considering they even got the ecclesia tree. Maybe because of the scenery, Laria sleeps really well that first night. Serena has already completed her task and brought back some madeleines for the young mistress. The conversation then moves to Serena's many lovers, and Laria politely asks her to stop breaking so many hearts. Serena is older and wiser than her young patient, so she gives her a bit of advice. There's nothing wrong with getting to know people. Otherwise, how else will you find out what you like and dislike? It's just like these madeleines. You have to try them to know if you like the taste. Are you listening, ladies? She's making a broader point, but Serena is also encouraging Laria to look elsewhere for her daily dose of romance. This flirtation with Evan is becoming a little more serious than she had in mind. But that doesn't mean she's taken her eyes off the target. Laria is still planning to make a fake name and buy a manor on Manhwa. Of course, in order to do that, she will need the Bastian Guild to pitch in and provide at least half the funds. The plot she's bought is separated from Seymour's by a river. Under the name Kyle Datrabonis, she worked through an agent from the capital and wasn't involved in the running of the estate. Seymour used the exact same strategy in the book, so when he finally arrived in Manhwa and started implementing his policies, people thought he was a little strange. Like, who is this lord who suddenly appeared and drove the price of flour through the roof? Anyway, around the same time, a new dessert became very popular named the Manhwa Madeleine, which made tourists flock to the region. When the bakers ran out of flour, Seymour sold it back to them for 3 or 4 times the price he had bought it, instantly making him the richest man in the region. It's kind of a sneaky plan, but it worked in the novel. So when the same thing came around this time, Laria jumped in under her fake name and got involved. Now she, Serena, and Lisa are digging into the madeleines, praising her for having such good foresight. Although Laria used a slightly different tactic to Seymour. She used the money from the Duke to buy and set up a bakery, bringing in her own staff with members of the guild who had a passion for baking. It's definitely a kinder strategy, since it doesn't involve stabbing the farmers in the back and selling their own stock back to them for triple the price. I have a feeling that's going to come back to bite Seymour down the line. As preparations for the banquet increase, Lisa starts getting more and more jealous about Laria spending time with Serena. She uses any opportunity to try and separate them, which gets really annoying really fast. Laria finally asks her straight up if she doesn't like Serena, but Lisa claims this is on the orders of the young Duke. He is still suspicious of the fake doctor, so he ordered Lisa to never leave her alone with his fiancée. This is bad news for Laria. She managed to fool the Duke, but clearly Evan isn't convinced. She'll have to be more careful in the future, but for the time being, the most important thing is just to act natural. In other news, the date of the banquet has now been set. Apparently, in this region, they have a tradition of hanging a picture of the owner at the entrance of their home, so Lisa asks Laria to draw one. She also asks her to handwrite her invitations to the local nobles as a courtesy. And there are a lot of nobles. As if all that wasn't enough to deal with, Evan will also be coming on the day of the banquet. With her chores piling up, Laria starts writing her invitations and receives responses right away. Now that she knows who's coming, she will need to start learning the history and relationships of her guests. Damn, who knew being rich and pretty was this much work? Then Serena comes in wearing a dress that doesn't seem particularly appropriate for medical care. Lisa tries to point that out before Serena practically wrestles her out of the room. Once she's gone, Serena offers her client another list of the local noble families, this one focusing on gossip and scandals. That is her area of expertise, after all. Serena admires her for working so hard as Laria Akarde, while also maintaining her reputation as Kyle from behind the scenes. She starts reading some of the reply letters, which includes an invitation to visit the Malade mansion once before the banquet to get better acquainted. The letter was written by one Chris Malade, a young man with a good reputation. Serena immediately encourages Laria to pursue him, and then turns it into a game of trying to guess what kind of lover is behind each letter. She has such a one-track mind. One of the letters is from Priest Marcel, promising to look into the tasks she gave him in some ancient texts that he has access to. Another letter is from Seymour, the one person that Laria was hoping to avoid at this banquet. He accepted her invitation wholeheartedly and even offered to come and visit her mansion before then, wanting to meet her in private. Serena, who thinks Seymour is her stalker, crumples the letter and throws it right across the room. She has no idea who's been copying who this whole time. Laria feels guilty, but the best she can do without damaging her reputation is to politely refuse a private meeting. The last letter is from Evan, just giving an update about life back home and his swordsmanship classes. Laria just skims it. She has no idea that Evan actually wrote and rewrote that letter a painstaking number of times, trying to just get the right tone. He didn't want to sound too confident with his progress and didn't want to make it seem like he wasn't thinking about her either. All that, and she barely read it. She then moved on to the painting task, throwing the towel in by just drawing one black dot in the middle of the canvas. Well, that's abstract. Another letter arrives in next week from Seymour, which is a surprise since her rejection letter was pretty firm. Since she gave the excuse of not feeling well, Seymour suggests bringing some healing food from the local farms to speed her recovery. Uh-oh, he's really persistent. He must be curious about her since she's been shadowing his movements. They both bet on the same horse all those months ago, and he even knows that they're both investing in Radei and Cares' paintings. Laria is trying not to panic. He knows a lot more than she thought, and it's making her feel guilty. But he couldn't possibly know that she's been copying him. I mean, she's always made a move before or at the exact same time as he did. So she keeps her cool, sending another rejection, this time with a short but curt line about her having a husband. Surely that will get the message across. Finally, the day of Evan's arrival rolls around. He steps off the carriage looking as handsome and charming as ever, though he's also significantly taller. At this rate, he's going to be bigger than the Duke. Laria welcomes him into the manor and shows him to his room. It's perfectly nice, but Evan seems a bit disappointed that they're not going to be sharing. Hold your horses, young man. You're barely 13. Laria assures him that they can share a room when she returns to the Icarde estate, which might be an empty promise if her escape plan goes well. He mentions that he's been doing very well in class, obviously because he wants that reward that she mentioned when she left the estate. With a little giggle, Laria sits him down and pats his head, telling him he did a good job for working so hard. He smiles like a satisfied cat, suddenly all full of energy again. She shows him round her room, where he spots the pile of letters building up on her table. They share some tea and biscuits while she sits down to write her replies. She is especially polite to one Marquis Elspier, who is the most famous person in the territory. She's asking permission to visit once every 3 days so that she can learn from their etiquette classes. At least, that's what she tells Evan. The real reason is that she wants to sneak in to check on her Hanua manor, which lies directly on the path to the Eldspier estate. It's the perfect excuse. The next letter comes as a shock. Seymour has written back again, this time detailing all the things they have in common, as if to prove his interest in her. Dude, she has a husband! She literally told you that! Laria breaks out in a cold sweat, trying to keep Evan from seeing the letter, but she has to reply, otherwise it will look suspicious. She tries to change the topic, suggesting they take a break, but Evan is insistent. I can't tell if he knows something is up or if he's just really that affectionate, but he offers to write a reply on her behalf. As you probably guessed, the letter he writes is aggressive, bordering on threatening. As troublesome as Seymour has been, Laria still has a reputation to uphold, so she asks him to write a different reply, more calmly this time. And maybe he would have if Serena didn't storm in, shouting about him being a stalker. She even goes so far as to ask Evan to cut his head off. Oh, girl, don't say that. He actually might. Thankfully, Lisa appears at just the right time to remind this crazy duo that they can't just go around killing whoever they want. After successfully diffusing the situation, she invites Laria to come and try on a new dress for the banquet, which is also a great distraction for Evan. It's a gorgeous gold gown, but for some reason, Evan doesn't like it. Actually, I think we can all guess the reason. He wants her to wear red. My guess is so that she clearly matches with her husband. Elsewhere, the young ladies at the Vrotna region are already gossiping about the new Duchess in their midst. Because of her rose tree background and how far away she is from the Icarde estate, a rumor has started that she isn't really that important and doesn't hold much power with her in-laws. Which couldn't be further from the truth, but clearly, these girls have it out for Laria. Their only concern is another girl named Kate, who may or may not be attending the banquet. Either way, it seems like something is bound to go down. Laria, too, has been reading up on her fellow nobles and knows that the family of Count Uvanar will be important to have on her side. Just as she's finishing her makeup, Evan appears in a dashing Icarde-themed outfit that matches his eyes. Laria's dress compliments him perfectly. I can't even be mad that he made her change. She looks so cute. The guests start pouring into the mansion, eager to greet the young lady of the Ikare household. Laria has two main goals for this evening. The first is to lay the foundation for her standing in elite society. The second is to approach Sven to see what the Bastian Guild wants from her. Though that's a little difficult while Count Uvenar's daughter is gossiping in the corner. She's a typical mean girl, just judging everyone without ever making conversation. She could be a real problem, but so far Laria isn't too bothered. The pianist strikes up a tune, so Evan and Laria lead the first dance, stealing everyone's attention. I mean, how could they not? They look so good together. Even the mean girls are watching. After their dance, Evan is called away to meet various distinguished guests. The second his back is turned, Seymour makes his introduction, sneaking up on her like a real stalker. Although, he is pretty handsome for a stalker. He asks her for a dance right out the gate, but Laria refuses on account of her health. I guess she must be speaking kind of loudly because Evan overhears and immediately returns, suggesting she take some rest. Seymour doesn't seem threatened at all, so Evan decides to take things one step further. He makes it very clear that he didn't approve of the letters he sent and asks him not to send another. Again, Seymour just smiles at him. I can't tell if this guy is stupid or just incredibly brave. He calmly notes that they got married very young. At this age, he says they're not yet husband and wife. They're more like brother and sister. Okay. So if she's too young to have a husband, why are you going after her, Seymour? Seriously, this guy is a walking red flag. Evan starts suggesting they make a baby to be taken more seriously, making Laria turn bright red. She slaps a hand over his mouth and drags him away before he can say anything more embarrassing. They run out to the garden where they encounter the infamous Kate, otherwise known as Caitlin Eldspie. This is the lady those mean girls were talking about. They didn't expect her to show up. She's been ostracized completely by wider society after being shunned by Vieti Uvenar, the ringleader of that little gang. She has no idea what she did wrong. I guess one day Vieti woke up on the wrong side of the bed and wanted to take it out on someone. Laria, of course, heard about all of this through Serena. So a week before the banquet, she made a personal visit to meet Kate, who was shocked to receive a duchess on a random midweek morning. The Eldspie estate is just beyond her Hanua manor, so Laria has decided to come regularly to receive an education from the Marchioness, Kate's mother. Kate warned her that she might be shunned for meeting her, but Laria already knew the rumors and still wants to get close to her. So on the evening of the banquet, she is delighted to see that Kate actually showed. While Evan is engulfed by a swarm of admiring young men, Laria follows Kate to talk in private. But instead of her outcast, she finds Serena and Sven over by the bushes. Because where else would two shady kids be hanging out? Sven starts by thanking her for all the support she has provided the guild. Then he asks why she wants to escape the Ikare house and live elsewhere under a fake name. You see, he has a suspicion that the Duke wants Princess Elane to become his son's wife. Of course, he is exactly right. According to the original plot, Laria would be at risk if she continued to reside with the Ikares, who might one day want to get rid of her and replace her with a better match. I don't know if that's how they still feel in this timeline, but it's still a risk. After running away, she planned to just live quietly on her own, but Sven offers her a chance to do something greater. They want her to be their master, using her prophetic skills to guide them to financial opportunities like she's been doing so far. Laria immediately refuses. Serena assures her she wouldn't actually be leading the guild, more like a secret member who tells them what to do. She refuses that too. That's when Sven introduces her to Sir Neo, the cat. Yep, that adorable little thing licking its paw is apparently the embodiment of evil, a devil created from a rift of dark magic. Okay, anyone else starting to think Sven might be losing his marbles? As if to prove himself, Neo leaps into the air and starts floating, speaking with her telepathically. He puts some spirit powder on her, but since her health is weak, they can't sustain a long conversation. The others are shocked he even spoke to her and seem really eager to get her on their side. But Laria insists that she wants nothing to do with dark magic. It's totally illegal, and her plan involves staying under the radar after faking her own death. It's literally the exact opposite of what she should be doing. They tried to convince her by pointing out all the amazing ways that dark magic can bring her power. She could even bring someone back from the dead if she wanted. All she would need are the cracks created when an unbaptized person destroys a holy relic. Who do we know who hasn't been baptized? Oh, right. Her husband. And who do we know who wants a divine relic? The Duke. Does that mean he's trying to bring Matilda back to life? Is that why he didn't get Evan baptized? Whoa, time out. This is all getting way too intense. All the pieces are starting to fall into place. The Duke even spent time in Carabantes when he was young. Carabantes is the only place where rumors of bringing someone back to life using dark magic have been spread. No one even knows if it's possible, but the method has been passed on. That must be why he wants Evan to marry Princess Ilani, so that he can be powerful enough to wield dark magic without fear being punished by the imperial family. It all makes sense. Laria really isn't interested in becoming an evil ruler of the underworld, but she promises to think about it just for Sven's sake, since he's so obsessed with the idea. And for now, it would be useful to continue using him for information on dark magic, especially if her theory about the Duke is correct. Her head is spinning, but there's still a banquet to attend and rude nobles to put up with. Everyone has some comment to make about how her family was in debt, or how her health seems fine and she's just pretending. Luckily, she has a lot of tricks up her sleeve, from diamonds to Serena's secrets and even Olivia's Tigress fan. One by one, she puts them all in their place, which means it's time for the final boss, Vieti Uvenar. Laria is led to the mean girl's corner by Byrne, the son of Marquis Calado. He seems nice enough, as does Orin, the girl beside him. Karen and Vieti, however, are definitely looking down on her. Vieti even interrupts her while she's thanking them for attending. How rude can you get? Laria knows exactly what they're trying to do, but she's done enough research to catch them off guard. She brings up Lady Kate, dealing a deadly blow to Byrne by mentioning all the love letters he sent her. She rejected every one, crumpling them up and leaving them on the floor of the Eldspa estate for her to find. As if that wasn't humiliating enough, Laria goes one step further and accuses him of using Vieti to get over his Kate's rejections. Oof, I think someone's gonna need some aloe vera over here. Having dealt maximum damage, sweet little Laria turns to leave, announcing that she's going to hang out with Kate instead. A flawless victory. After chatting with Kate, Laria heads out to get some air and go over everything she's found out tonight. Discovering that the Duke is trying to use dark magic is unnerving, to say the least. Especially because Laria can't figure out what part she has to play in his plan. No matter which way she looks at it, the Duke will definitely abandon her. If his final goal is Matilda, I don't think anyone could stop him from getting her. Laria will just have to put all her energy into Plan A. Get rich and escape quick. Which would be easy if Seymour didn't keep cornering her when she's alone. Seriously, what is this guy's problem? She tries to slip away, but he just wants to ask one question. Does she believe in fate? What kind of romance novels has he been reading? Is this really how he's going to make his move? Laria doesn't take kindly to that at all. She especially doesn't like how he keeps using her first name. They literally just met, but he does call her Miss when she asks him to. She also tells him frankly that she doesn't believe in fate, only money, which is huge girl boss energy if you ask me. But Seymour feels the same. Finally, he gets to the point and asks if she's read a book named Hanua's Afternoon. It's the travel novel that gave him the idea for his Madeline project. So he must have found out about her alter ego, Kyle Datrabonis, if he knows that she was involved. Laria decides to play completely dumb. She says that she hasn't read the book and has never even heard the name Datrabonis. He doesn't seem convinced, but clearly he doesn't have proof. Even so, he leans uncomfortably close and tells Laria that she's his soulmate. Gross! She is literally a teenager, and she's married. Even if that wasn't the case, he's supposed to fall in love with Ilani. Does that mean the plot is changing? Despite his attitude, he is really cute. A part of Laria finds him really attractive. He even asks if they can keep their relationship a secret from Evan. You gotta give him credit for the sheer audacity. Actually, it kind of makes sense. In the original storyline, Seymour has an affair with the princess, so does that make Laria like the male and female lead? Anyway, aside from all his flirting, Seymour does actually have a business proposal, and it's not such a bad idea. They could invest together. That way, Laria wouldn't have to worry about avoiding him, and she could still benefit from all his financial gains. She asks for more details, so he reveals that his next plan is jewelry. Because the founding anniversary is coming up, it's a good idea to invest in jewels and gems. Whenever Princess Alani wears something, the prices always soar. Laria already knows that this will be a success, but she guides Seymour towards rubies instead of Alani's usual favorite, which is emerald. Seymour is impressed with her foresight and offers to work on it together. Since it seems like he's more interested in money than romance, Laria agrees. Now, they're officially business partners. But is it just me, or does anyone else still not trust this guy? I hope this doesn't end up backfiring. As the banquet winds down, the guests start to leave. Seymour comes up to Evan and Laria when the hall is nearly empty, talking about some painting he saw in the entry hall. It's the one Laria drew. You know, that black dot in the middle of a white canvas. Seymour was so impressed that he stared at it for an hour. That's right, a whole hour. After thoroughly irritating Evan, he heads off, leaving the young couple to retire for the night. Evan congratulates her on hosting a successful event. He also noticed that she was a lot more comfortable with Viscount Seymour by the end of the night. Hesitantly, Laria admits that they had a private conversation in the garden. She explains that all his flirting was just a misunderstanding, and now they're on good terms. Evan finds that hard to believe, which is understandable given his behavior. But it turned out he wasn't interested in her romantically. The whole time he just wanted to be business partners. Of course, it's hard to explain all this to Evan without actually admitting that they're now in cahoots. Even so, the young duke still doesn't like him. It's pretty obvious that he's just jealous she was talking to another guy, but he insists that's not the case. It's not jealousy, just a burning desire to hurt Seymour. Well, that's not exactly reassuring. It's the first time since Ludva that Evan has felt like drawing his sword against someone. It's hard to remember sometimes that Evan is only 13. It's no surprise that he's still a little traumatized from the captain's training. Laria wants to be sensitive, but she reminds him that getting along with Seymour is important. He's a rich man and he lives nearby. So even though it bothers Evan, she asks him to accept so she can have her own relationships and promises nothing will ever happen between her and another man. Kind of crazy that she's saying this at the tender age of 14, but it's important for Evan to hear it. Every good relationship is built on trust. On the topic of his trauma, Laria asks if he still finds it hard to look at people in blue uniforms. He's surprised she even noticed, but yes, it's still a problem. He asked a sparring partner to wear a blue uniform just to test himself and completely froze when he took out his sword. Aw, that's actually really sad. Laria doesn't want to push him any further, so instead she asks about his plans to return to the duchy. He's leaving in 3 days, but she tells him for the time being not to think about his responsibilities. For now, they can just be kids having fun. Meanwhile, Seymour has returned home feeling very satisfied with his new business partner. His approach to the Madeline incident made him a lot of money, but now he's very unpopular with the people of the territory. Having Laria by his side will help him earn the favor of the locals, which is an important part of business. He already thinks she's a genius, especially at such a young age. He's so excited by the idea of working with her that he can't even sleep. So maybe this isn't a purely business relationship after all. A few days pass, and soon it's time for Evan to go home. He looks a little sad. It'll be quite some time before they can meet again, and the poor kid is genuinely worried about her health. Just imagine how sad he'll be when she eventually disappears. That's probably what Serena's thinking too. The more attached they get, the harder it will be to remove Laria and start a new life outside of the duchy. After Evan's departure, she works harder than ever to convince her to join the Bastian Guild in their mission to bring dark magic into the world. But Laria is still a little doubtful that dark magic even exists. Other than that floating cat, we haven't seen many signs of it. Any dark magic is born from a contract with the devil and always leaves traces on the world. That's kind of like the relationship between Neo and Sven. Sven's kind of just like a glorified butler, but he wasn't the one to actually sign the contract that's keeping Neo here. Serena says that whoever signed it probably isn't in such a good way. Making the deal with the devil has a heavy price. Which is just another reason for Laria not to get involved. Of course, Serena is quick to explain that there's no need for her to summon a devil. If she has a talent for dark magic, there's a lot more that she can do without hurting herself. Laria is still hung up on the whole resurrection thing, so she asks Serena for more information. It's not like a zombie movie. Apparently, You have to travel back to the past and change the order of events so that the person in question doesn't die. Which sounds really complicated. What if you change too much and start a totally different timeline? It would also be super difficult to summon a devil for that purpose, because they don't allow contracts that benefit humans. On a different topic, Serena asks about Seymour. Even after Laurie explains what happened, she's deeply suspicious. Then Lisa arrives with a letter from the Duke, asking about Vietti Uvanar. I guess he heard about the showdown. He even offers to blow up her father's mine as revenge. This family doesn't know the meaning of the word chill, do they? She writes a reply at once, telling him everything is fine and there's no need to blow up anything, thank you very much. She writes a reply at once, telling him everything is fine and there's no need to blow up anything, thank you very much. She's in the middle of writing a letter to Priest Marcel, summoning him to Verotna when Serena spots something strange on the window. Someone has stuck flower petals onto the glass. That someone is clearly Evan, trying to remind her of their first dance. What a sweetheart. The next day, Laria goes to visit her new bestie, Kate. After her appearance at the banquet, she's become all popular again and is already receiving invitations to other parties. Looks like Laria's plan is going swimmingly. She'll be at the top of the social hierarchy in no time. Now to start the next phase of her plan, convincing people that Viscount Dotrabonis is a real person. Already there are rumors about his identity, since he built a giant mansion and hasn't visited even once. Laurie invites Kate to come and take a look around his mansion and meet him for herself. How is she going to pull that one off? Her next meeting is with Priest Marcel, who is not happy to have been called all the way out to Verotna. But he stops complaining when Laria offers him double the money for her donation. Only this time, she doesn't want a blessing. Instead, she wants information. Her body has always rejected blessings, and now she's starting to think it's because of her affinity for dark magic. Marcel explains that some bodies go against the laws of nature, and in those cases, they can reject blessings. Wait, Laria's body goes against the laws of nature because she possessed this body. Her soul is from another world. Is that why Neo took a liking to her? Because it can tell she's not from this world? Even if that is the case, she can't tell anyone about it. So for now, Laria acts calm and continues to entertain Marcel. He has no idea why he's here, especially since they're not in her mansion, but Viscount Dotrabonis's. And she gave him clothes to change out of his priestly uniform. Just as Kate and her friends are walking up to the fence, she convinces Marcel to pull off his ring, revealing his true appearance. She wants to put on a real show to convince them that Dotrabonis is a real Viscount, so she pays him to play a game of chess with her. After that, everyone spreads rumors about how wealthy and noble the Viscount is. Although, they also start spreading rumors about Laria's relationship with him, which isn't exactly what she was hoping for. Meanwhile, Seymour is now being invited to a banquet every week. Everyone wants to get in on his next business ideas, but it's kind of exhausting to always be invited for his wealth and not for the sake of his company. He overhears rumors about the appearance of Viscount Dotrabonis, which comes as a surprise since Seymour knows that's Laria's alter ego. People are even comparing the two of them, saying that the Viscount seems far more noble and less greedy than Seymour. Just based on the number of eyewitness accounts, he assumes he made a mistake. Maybe Dotrabonis is a real person after all. Which comes as an extra concern when he hears the ladies gossiping about Dotrabonis and Laria's relationship. Why can't these people just mind their own business? When Seymour next meets her, he can't focus. He desperately wants to know if she's having an affair with the Viscount, and it ends up just slipping out. Laria explains that she and the Viscount have known each other for a very long time. They have a special kind of relationship. Yeah, as if that sounds any less suspicious. When he asks if Evan knows about their relationship, Laria begins to cough and leaves to see her doctor right away. Real subtle, Laria. Several days pass, and soon Evan's birthday is just around the corner. Laria plans to visit the capital for the occasion, which means she won't see Marquess Eltbier or Kate for a month. She'll also attend the founding anniversary while she's there, mostly to make sure her ruby investment is going to pay off. While saying her goodbyes, Kate warns Laria that the rumors about her and Viscount Dotrabonis are getting more and more serious. And the one spreading them is none other than Vietti, because who else could it be? She's really laying it on thick, even making up a whole story about them being childhood sweethearts. Kate is really mad on her behalf. It's just like when she was cut out of society. It's always because of Vietti. So she comes up with a plan to tell people that she and the Marquess were also present at the meeting with Dr. Bonus. That way, it doesn't seem like she was meeting him in secret. When that problem solved, Laria heads to the capital with Serena. While in the carriage, they receive a message that Duke Ecarde was given a Medal of Honor by the Emperor. It's going to be awarded to him during the founding ceremony. But nothing like that ever happened in the original book, and Duke Ecarde isn't exactly in the favor of the Emperor. Serena explains that the Duke donated the book written by the first Duke of Ecarde to the Academy, just like Laria suggested. It was considered such a great contribution to the Empire that it earned him an award. So basically, she just helped him move forward with his plan to get closer to the Imperial family and bring his wife back to life. Oops, that's not what she was hoping for. Now her whole political position has changed, and she has entirely new villains to contend with, like Ecarde's arch-nemesis Duke Orlando, who has already heard about Laria's involvement. He finds it strange that Duke Ecarde would have adopted a girl like Laria when she's still too young for marriage. So he takes a look at his reports and notices that since her arrival, the Ecarde clan has become more and more powerful. Now deeply suspicious, he orders his right-hand man, Maedor, to kidnap Laria on the way to the capital and dispose of her as quickly as possible. Fortunately, while they're on the road, Laria suddenly requests the captain of the guard to change their route. Serena uses the excuse of her health to figure out a new path that will ensure she arrives at a small town named Avonatar tomorrow afternoon. Of course, she also takes the chance to flirt with their captain, but he doesn't take the bait. He's no fool. He saw what happened to the other guys. After arriving in Avonatar, the girls are both in go mode. Clearly, Laria has a plan she's setting in motion, which apparently requires Serena to put the pressure on poor Captain Owen and get him away from Laria. In the end, he's only a man and is quickly won over by her charms. Now Laria has a chance to visit Avonatar Lake with Lisa and a small handful of guards. Over by the shore, they spot a mysterious figure fishing on their own. She wants to go up to them, but with all the knights hovering around, it won't be possible. So she sends some into town to look for a ruby store and fakes a coughing attack to send others after Serena. Now it's just Lisa, Laria, and a single guard. This would be the perfect time for a surprise attack. And just as she suspects, Maedor and his men are lurking just out of sight. In that moment, they strike, catching the attention of the mysterious stranger. The next second, Maedor's men are surrounded by armored knights from the Imperial family. And why is that? Because the stranger was none other than Princess Aelani herself. The knights have the assassins apprehended in seconds. They didn't attack for Laria's sake, but for Aelani, who is pretty annoyed to have her peaceful vacation ruined by all this commotion. Of course, Laria knew all of this would happen because she remembered where all the pivotal characters would be at this point in the storyline. Avonatar is meant to be the first meeting of the male and female leads, since Seymour also comes here for the ruby auction. Maedor tries to convince the princess that he had no intention of hurting her, but he can't exactly prove it. Otherwise, he'd have to admit that he's really here to murder Laria. Feeling smug after her success, she introduces herself to the princess, finally greeting the future empress and the true hero of the story. While they're talking, her rod suddenly starts moving. Everyone comes over to help her heave this giant fish ashore, which is when Laria remembers how this is supposed to go in the novel. Seymour takes a walk by the lake and encounters the princess, where they meet eyes and instantly fall for one another. She suddenly feels a tug on her rod and he helps her pull it in. As thanks, the princess gives him a ruby necklace and walks away. Today, the one who receives that token is Laria. She's conflicted. If she takes the necklace, the storyline will change forever. But the princess threatens to throw it into the lake if she doesn't, so she doesn't have much of a choice. After their brief detour, the crew are soon back on the road. They're just on the outskirts of the capital when Laria wakes up, wondering why it's so bright in the middle of the night. And the reason for that is simple. Evan. He couldn't help himself. He's ordered an entire fireworks display to welcome her back to the capital. This boy isn't just extra, he's absurd! As soon as she arrives at the Ecarde estate, the Duke and Evan are waiting to welcome her home like two happy puppies. She thanks them for the fireworks, and it turns out it was actually the Duke's idea. He even thought it was too low-key for the occasion. The boys have also put up some more photos while she's been away, including one from the newspaper article they appeared in. Evan wants a better shot, so he ordered a camera, which is not as chill as it sounds. In this world, cameras are made with magic, so they're insanely expensive. They also take about 5 years to produce, so it won't come anytime soon. For now, Evan suggests she take a rest since there will be a big celebration for his birthday tomorrow. Of course, that also means there is a special gown already prepared for the occasion. Laria looks adorable in bright yellow, but she also looks adorable in everything. Evan clearly likes it, as when she appears before the guests, he turns bright red. Laria pre-requested the orchestra to play Evan a happy birthday song as she approaches him with her present. She made a painting and wrote a card, and also brought ruby cufflinks from Avonatar. There's even one for the Duke too, so now they're matching. Evan is touched, but confused. This party isn't to celebrate his birthday, it's to welcome her home. Wait, even though today is his birthday, he's given it up to celebrate his wife? Okay, I'm all for romance, but that's a little silly. Now poor Laria is embarrassed because she's the only one who brought him presents. Evan quickly stops Laria from greeting him and reminds her not to do it in the future. Hearing this, Laria tries to disagree, but their attention quickly shifts to Olivia's arrival. Olivia excitedly approaches Laria and tells her that she has a lot of presents for her, while also boasting to the other guests that Laria is her goddaughter. Seeing the gift, Laria curiously asks why she's receiving a gift when it's Evan's birthday. Olivia turns to Claudine and asks if Evan's birthday budget is low, to which Claudine answers that it's higher than before. Hearing this, Olivia then comments that there isn't a need for her to buy Evan a present then. Noticing that Laria wants to object, Evan quickly assures her that he doesn't need any presents since he has already received Laria's cufflink and even promises to read her letter every day until he memorizes the content. Afterwards, Laria gratefully thanks Olivia for the necklace, which Olivia excitedly comments suits Laria best. Olivia even shows that a hidden dagger is concealed within the necklace, surprising Laria. Later on, Mirande informs Claudine of Viscount Hyland's arrival. Hyland then informs Claudine that he wants to introduce him to his niece, so Claudine turns to see Hyland's niece, but freezes after seeing that the niece's face looks exactly like Matilda's. Meanwhile, the other guests start to gossip about how similar Rosalie is to Matilda. At the same time, Hyland explains to Claudine Rosalie's current situation, which is that she has nowhere to stay. Hearing this, Claudine coldly instructs Mirande to arrange a room for Rosalie and later walks out of the party. Witnessing everything, Olivia comments that the timing is off for Rosalie's arrival, which Laria agrees with. I get you, Olivia. Looks like a problem is about to happen. After the party, while Laria and Evan are walking, Laria curiously asks if Evan has already met Rosalie in the past. Evan answers that today is the first time, and hopes that Claudine will quickly find a suitable place for Rosalie to transfer. Seeing Evan stressed, Laria again sincerely greets him with a happy birthday, which warms Evan's heart. Later that night, while Laria is peacefully sleeping, Evan stares at her and realizes for the first time that he's grateful for being born, and it's all because of Laria. Afterwards, while Laria is all ready to sleep, Evan visits Mirande in his office and instructs him to secure a special seat at the Foundation Festival as soon as possible. Knowing this, Mirande is stressed, as obtaining a ticket is challenging, given that the application period has already passed, and Evan has already informed him that he needs a general seat. Evan explains to Mirande that he overheard Laria talking to Olivia about looking forward to the Founding Festival, so he wants to secure a ticket on her behalf. Hearing this, Mirande quickly agrees to Evan's request and promises to secure a ticket, regardless of the circumstances. The next morning, while eating breakfast together, Laria feels relieved after seeing that Evan looks unbothered by what had happened the day before. Thus, she offers to walk Evan to the gymnasium, which he gladly accepts. After dropping off Evan, while Laria is happily walking in the hallway, she overhears Rosalie rudely commanding Lisa to bring some items to her bedroom. Still, Lisa respectfully declines this while explaining that all the items belong to Laria and were also bought by Claudine to make Laria feel comfortable, and adds that all items belong to her, thus they need Laria's approval. Hearing this, Laria also realizes that most of the items are similar to Barotna villas. While listening to Rosalie rudely talking and threatening Lisa to agree to her, Laria steps in and innocently asks what the commotion is. Rosalie then starts to act all innocent and tells Laria that she wants the vase, commenting that the late Duchess will surely give it to her at once. Hearing this, Laria already knows that Rosalie can't be trusted since she's strong with the strong and weak with the weak, and also only acts in front of the Duke. Hence, Laria agrees to Rosalie's demand and even invites her to dinner with the family, which excites Rosalie. Afterwards, at the dinner table, Rosalie appears innocently in front of the family. Olivia then comments on how similar Rosalie is to the late Duchess. Hearing this, Rosalie confidently replies that everyone thinks the same, and adds that if her aunt were alive, she might like her too. Laria then comments that she likes to take care of Rosalie, but since Rosalie is of legal age, it's customary for her not to stay long as a guest. Listening to this, Rosalie shamelessly suggests that Claudine make her an Eckerd. Well, Rosalie is full of herself. Before Rosalie can explain further what she means by Claudine adopting her, Laria starts to cough and announces that she needs to leave the room, which Evan helps her with, and concerningly, takes her to her room. Because of this, Rosalie realized that Laria didn't support her, even though Laria was the one who had opened the subject. The next day, while Olivia and Laria are having tea, Olivia comments on how suspicious Rosalie's arrival is, as it coincides precisely with the day of Matilda's death. Olivia also notes how strange it is that Rosalie tries to imitate Matilda's habits and clothes. Additionally, as of now, Rosalie is at Claudine's office, and he is reluctant to make her leave since everyone knows that Matilda's absence is a significant pain and weakness for Claudine. Hearing this, Laria then asks Olivia if they could tell Claudine about this, to which Olivia replies that Claudine is already aware of how off the situation is, but is too weak to reject Rosalie. Olivia also comments that even if it's frustrating to see Rosalie, she will try to cope with it and is willing to make an effort to make Claudine feel better. After learning that Evan's inheritance is at stake, Laria is determined to stop whatever Rosalie's plan is, as she also notices Evan is starting to distance himself from Claudine. Meanwhile, Rosalie left Claudine's office after giving him her painting, and as she is lost in thought, she is surprised to see Laria beside her. Laria only laughed after seeing Rosalie startled by her. Laria then invites Rosalie for tea, as Laria will be leaving for Barotna after the founding festival, and tells Rosalie that she is confident Rosalie will claim her rights. Hearing this, Rosalie thinks that Laria is innocent and easily manipulated, so she asks Laria to invite her again to dinner, which Laria agrees to. During dinner, Laria tells the family that she's the one who invited Rosalie, as she wants to spend time with them before her trip to Barotna. Next, Claudine asks if Mirande has secured the special seats for the founding ceremony, to which Mirande readily agrees and shares that he has secured 4 seats. Hearing this, Rosalie then asked if she could also attend, but Mirande explained that it was already impossible to get an additional ticket. Rosalie's mood became sour, and she tried to suggest that Laria not attend the festival, given her weakness, which made Evan angry at Rosalie for being so insensitive. I agree with Evan too. I would also have snapped at Rosalie. Noticing the tension in the air, Laria quickly calms Evan and assures her that she is fine, that Rosalie will take her seat and that she's okay with sitting at the general seat. Hence, because of this, Evan also announces that he'll be joining Laria at the general seat too. The next day, while Lisa is grooming Laria, she can't help but rant about Rosalie's bad behavior and why Laria agrees to give up her ticket. However, Laria assures Lisa that she's okay with it. However, Lisa still doesn't calm down, as she also doesn't like that Laria gave Rosalie the dress that is specially tailored for Laria. At the same time, commenting that Rosalie can't do everything she wants just because she looks like Matilda. After listening to Lisa's rants, Laria smiles at her and tells her not to worry too much. But Evan suddenly appears and also agrees with Lisa. Evan shares with Laria that he's only stopping himself since he knows Laria doesn't want any trouble. But why does Laria also need to tell Rosalie what is hers? Next, Serena also arrives and hands the curtain hairpin to Laria, who announces that she will personally give it to Rosalie too, which Lisa and Evan disagreed with, but had no choice but to follow Laria. Meanwhile, Rosalie is busy admiring herself in the mirror while the tailor adjusts the dress for her. The tailor also hands Rosalie a box of chocolates and informs her that Orlando wants her to give the chocolates to Claudine during the founding celebration, as Matilda has done in the past. Afterwards, Orlando shares the chocolates with the others to avoid suspicion. Listening to the tailor, Rosalie remembers how Orlando informed her that she's a relative of Matilda and that she looks just like Matilda. Rosalie also remembers how Orlando offers her a plan to be the daughter of a noble, and she only needs to be his spy, reporting to him whatever Claudine is doing. At present, Rosalie informs the tailor that Claudine is inspecting the ember mines and also adds that Laria is not a problem for their plan either. Next, Olivia suddenly enters the room and furiously kicks Rosalie while Evan tries to stop the tailor, but quickly escapes. Man, the kick is so satisfying! Rosalie realizes that her secret has been revealed, making her terrified for her life. Afterwards, while the guards are escorting Rosalie into prison, Olivia offers Claudine that she will handle Rosalie's issue, as she thinks Claudine should no longer be involved with Rosalie. However, Claudine declines this and assures Olivia that it's he who needs to resolve this, while still feeling disappointed with himself for being blinded by Rosalie's true motive. Later on, the Icard family arrives at the founding festival. While everyone is busy settling down, Serena silently approaches Laria and informs her that the tailor safely escaped, just as Laria had planned. Hearing this, Laria recalls asking Serena's help in showing Rosalie's true motive by hiring a tailor to act as a spy and messenger for Orlando and Rosalie, since she already had an idea about this in the past. Since, after Claudine cut off Merdos, he slowly changed tactics by using Rosalie as his spy. Thus, all Laria needs to do now is show the Icard family Rosalie's motive, which was successfully done. Laria, you're such a genius! After talking to Serena, Laria proceeds to look around and sees a beautiful Elani looking down at the guests. Laria looks at her and starts to adore how beautiful and sophisticated she looks. Evan then asked Laria if she also wanted a ruby necklace like Elani's. Still, Laria didn't mind him and proceeded to admire how pretty Elani looked, realizing that she was perfect for Evan. While staring at Elani, Laria notices Elani looking directly at her and acknowledges her presence. Laria is shocked by this action since the original story is supposed to be about Seymour, whom Elani will notice, but that didn't happen because of her. Thus, Laria then promises herself that from now onwards, she will try to stay away from Elani and Seymour's path. Later, the auction of Imperial goods began. As it proceeds, Laria recalls from the original story that Seymour won the bid for the music box, which contains 3 essential treasures that will be key to his connection with Elani. Still, Laria is shocked upon realizing that Seymour didn't even bid for the music box. Knowing this, Laria quickly outbid Orlando, who also wanted to win the music box, but failed since Laria won the bid, since she also doesn't want Orlando to win and benefit from it in the future. Evan then tells Laria that she should have told him she wants the item so that he can get it for her, but Laria explains that she's only doing it to get revenge on Orlando. After the auction, Olivia then praises Laria to take revenge, even if it's a cute and trivial one. At the same time, Claudine worries that Laria doesn't have enough money for the item, to which Laria assures them that she does. Next, a man hands Laria the music box and a flower, given to those who donated, and Laria needs to give it to someone she's also grateful for. Upon hearing this, Olivia, Claudine, and Evan try to convince Laria to give it to them, hoping that Laria would feel pressured, and she quickly excused herself. These 3 love Laria so much! Meanwhile, Seymour realizes he's a fool for not getting the music box, but then he starts to recall Laria and how amazing she is, so he promises to work hard to reach her level. After escaping, she starts to walk around the palace. As she walks, she begins to look inside the music box and sees the toy that Elani will look for in the future. Thus, she promises to look after it for Seymour. While walking, Laria overhears other kids bad-mouthing and gossiping about how Claudine is not deserving of his award, and if he is loyal to the Empire. The girl then criticizes Laria, calling her an unfit daughter-in-law, and notes that she and Olivia aren't particularly close. Later, they also criticize Evan for being violent, suggesting that it might be because he never had a mother. Hearing these things, Laria steps out and confronts the kids. Still, they only mock her and even tell Laria that what they said is true. And when she tries to explain to the boy that what he thinks about the Icard family is false, the boy only taunts Laria, but is quickly stopped when a punch lands in his face, which is from Evan. Evan furiously threatens the boy by reminding him that he wants to be injured again, but this time for 3 months, which the boy quickly begs Evan to stop. Olivia also appears and starts to scold the kid, and when she's about to hit them, Claudine stops her, commenting that kids shouldn't be punished, but rather their parents, while glaring at the kids who are already scared. Afterward, while walking out, Claudine thanks Laria for defending him after all that had happened, and Laria assures him that she loves him no matter what, and more than her birth father. Oh, Laria, you're so kind! Upon arriving home, Mirande reports to Claudine that Rosalie committed suicide and is dead. Hylan, the person who bought Rosalie, is also reportedly dead, making this more suspicious to everyone, but Claudine instructs Mirande to bury the bodies properly. Next, while Laria and Evan are on their way to their room, Lisa, Mirande, and other maids approach her and apologize for not protecting Laria from Rosalie. They then promise that they'll do their job better. Listening to this, Laria smiles warmly at them and then hands Mirande the flower, as she is grateful to Mirande for working hard to secure their ticket. Mirande feels excited after receiving the flower and promises to guard it with his life because of this remark. Laria looks at Evan, who's eyeing the flower. That night, while getting ready for bed, Laria curiously asked Evan if he thought that Rosalie also committed suicide. Still, Evan told her not to worry about such things and to leave it to Claudine to investigate. However, Evan shared that he too thinks it's Orlando's plan, and they must be careful in the future. Laria then looks at Evan sincerely and realizes that in the future, she'll be leaving them behind, and also she and Evan will slowly drift apart. Because of this, Laria curiously asks Evan what he'll feel if he loses someone he loves, to which Evan truthfully replies that he doesn't want to be like his father, who got vulnerable because of love. Hearing this, Laria looks at Evan and tells him that she wants to maintain their current friendship. This then shocks Evan, but he then agrees to Laria's request. Oh, Evan, you're too understanding. For the following days, Claudine works endlessly, making Olivia more worried. 6 years have passed, and now Laria and Evan are testing the camera that Evan ordered for Laria in the past. They have grown up to be fine ladies and gentlemen. Afterwards, while resting, Laria excitedly asked Evan when the picture would be developed, to which Evan replied that it would take 2 weeks, but was sure that Laria's photo would be beautiful. Evan then stands up to get more snacks, so Laria gets to stare at Evan more. She then realizes that Evan becomes more handsome with the passing years, and also learns that 7 years have passed since they married each other, during which time she has completely recovered from her illness. Laria is then lost in thought when she recalls the past years she spent with her friends, but later Evan calls her attention to remind her to get her stuff from his room, which Laria quickly agrees to. Remembering this, Laria realizes that for the past few years, Evan and she have grown apart, as it feels like Evan is drawing a line between them, but Laria can't object since this is what she wants to happen. But even if it is, she still can't help but feel empty since Evan no longer hugs or kisses her, so she tries to assure herself that it's for the better. Laria created those lines, so he's just respectful, even if he doesn't know the real reason. Afterwards, Evan notices the intensely cute stare Laria is giving him, so to avoid it, he quickly excuses himself, leaving Laria alone. Upon arriving in his room, Evan starts to write in his journal about his day with Laria, but stops after realizing that he's beginning to get more attached to her. Evan then recalls his promise to Laria to remain friends, even though he's already developing feelings for her. The next day, while Evan and Laria are having tea, Laria curiously asks about the Imperial Banquet, which Evan begins to explain. It was banned before because it was considered too decadent, but as the years passed, the royal family began to hold it again. Laria's thoughts are distracted by Lisa handing her 2 letters. The other one is from Laria's brother, Fred, who is shocked to hear about the parents' death and Laria's marriage. Learning the content of the letter, Evan urges Laria to reply to her brother. Still, Laria explains that she'll wait for her brother's arrival, as it'll be much quicker to do so since logistics are falling behind due to the arrival of diamonds from the east. Laria even comments that she wants to buy a diamond, but the line is too long. Laria then realizes that Seymour has become more prosperous after monopolizing the diamond trade. Laria then remembers that in the original story, she will die at the banquet and they will split with Seymour and Elani. In a fit of anger, Elani will then decide to marry anyone, and Evan and Elani will be wed after Laria's death. After recalling all this, Laria accepts that she will soon be living on her own and will follow her plan, leaving everything behind and pretending to go missing to keep herself safe. Next, Laria reads a letter from Elani, who requests her to visit the palace. After reading this, Laria excitedly announces that she'll be getting ready to visit Elani. Evan then visits Nathan and instructs him to acquire diamond jewelry for Laria, no matter the cost, which Nathan also agrees to. Evan really is so rich! Laria prepares for her visit to the Imperial Palace with Lisa's help, wearing a ruby-colored dress with matching earrings and emblem. Lisa brushes her hair and adds a ruby pin, making her look stunning. She wonders why the Imperial Princess invited Laria, but says nothing. Before leaving, Nathan arrives with the diamond necklace from the Eastlands, the one they failed to acquire before. Evan actually had it and asks Nathan to deliver it as a gift. Laria feels touched, knowing Evan's true intention was to make her happy. She joins Duke Ickard in a carriage, as he also needs to visit the palace. The Duke helps her inside, and they sit in an uncomfortable silence. Laria tries to ease the tension by recalling her trip to Evan's academy graduation years ago. Back then, she feared the Duke, believing he'd kill her if he knew she was getting better. Even now, she hides her improved health and continues saying she's still coughing blood. The Duke, unaware of her thoughts, silently worries and plans to summon a doctor. Oh, you two need to talk. Though he shows no emotion, he genuinely cares about her condition. Laria, however, still sees him as an arch-villain from the novel she once read. To change the subject, she asks about his meeting with the king. The Duke explains it's about the iron ore discovered in Podolin. Laria remembers that Podolin is where Lady Matilda, the Duke's wife, was buried, according to her wish for a peaceful resting place. The Duke even wishes to be buried beside her someday. This surprises Laria, who never expected such devotion from him. The man she once feared hides a quiet, lifelong love. She begins to wonder if everything she believed about him was wrong. The purest love of the century! Laria arrives at the princess's residence in the Imperial Palace, and they greet each other warmly. They quickly come up with an excuse for the visit, that the princess wants to order a new necklace for the next founding festival. They plan to use an old necklace designed from 6 years ago as the reference. Their conversation turns serious as they mention their unexpected meeting at Aventerre. The princess reveals that assassins were indeed after Laria, but they lacked evidence for a full conviction. Instead, the attackers were sentenced to 5 years in prison and had 1 foot chopped off. It's a bit brutal that the princess casually speaks about it. Laria wonders about Medor, Duke Orlando's henchman, but can only remember him faintly. The princess then brings up the music box Laria bought at the auction. She offers to buy it back for twice the price, but Laria pretends it's of deep value to her. In truth, Laria plans to escape in 2 months and needs more funds. She holds out until the princess agrees to pay 6 times the price, and they strike a deal. Laria feels guilty afterward, realizing the music box belonged to the princess's late mother. According to the princess, her mother had once been the empress but lost her position after trying to kill the emperor. The conflict began when a woman brought a child, Ronald, to the palace, claiming he was the emperor's son. The emperor accepted him, which enraged the empress, leading to her downfall and eventual death. Ronald's mother became the new empress, but Princess Elani, the legitimate child, remained ahead in the succession line. Laria now understands the music box's emotional value, but feels it's too late to lower the price. She excuses herself, knowing her business at the palace is done. Before she leaves, the princess invites her to play chess. Laria has no desire to bond with her future husband's wife, but when money is involved, she can't resist. She agrees to the game, motivated by the wager. As Laria and the princess play chess, the princess opens up about her past. She says she relates to Laria after hearing about her unfaithful biological father. She admires Duke Ickard, who remains loyal to his late wife, unlike the emperor. The princess speaks bitterly about how the emperor ignores her words and fills his banquets with wine and women. Even skilled officials are judged based on how well they entertain him. That's why Duke Ickard, who doesn't drink or flatter, is disliked by the emperor. Oh, to find a man like the Duke! Meanwhile, the Duke meets the Emperor to discuss the mines in Podolin. The king insists on developing the mine there, but the Duke suggests an alternate site. The king refuses, and the Duke senses that further opposition will bring trouble. Though tempted to argue, the Duke doesn't want the peace of his wife's grave disturbed. He debates humbling himself, but his pride and love for Matilda holds him back. Just as tension rises, a servant rushes in with news. Lady Laria's health has worsened. The Duke leaves immediately, saying he must see his daughter-in-law. The Emperor allows it, but clearly shows displeasure at the Duke's refusal. When the Duke arrives, he's surprised to find Laria perfectly fine. She explains that her act was to help him exit the meeting gracefully. Remembering his worried expression, she's glad she could help him. The Duke feels both relief and warmth from her concern. When Laria says they're family and family helps each other, he's caught off guard. He blushes as she smiles and invites him back into the carriage. Hoping these two won't have any misunderstanding anymore. At the same time, the princess checks the chessboard and realizes Laria had been winning. Impressed, the princess blushes slightly, amazed that Laria isn't just beautiful, but clever too. She feels a growing fondness for her, even if she doesn't fully understand it yet. The next day, Laria plans to develop mines in nearby regions, but registers them under the name Kyle Dart Livonis. This way, the Emperor won't pressure Duke Ickard to touch the sacred land in Podolin. She also wants to speed up the process before anyone else interferes. She decides to visit Mr. Seymour to negotiate mining rights during her trip to choose masks for the masquerade. Laria assumes Evan doesn't care enough, so she plans to go alone. But before she leaves, Evan enters and reminds her to organize her things if she has time. He cares so much. His presence makes Laria sentimental, remembering the room they once shared as children. She quickly covers it up by saying they should pick masks separately so they won't recognize each other at the ball. She proposes a bet. Whoever guesses correctly gets to make a wish. Evan, more eager than she expects, agrees and even writes a contract for their bets. They both sign it, sealing the deal. Laria notices how serious he looks and wonders what wish he might ask of her. A few days later, she meets Baron Ritsua, a business partner who doesn't realize she's Kyle. He badmouths Kyle as petty and cruel, thinking Laria will agree. Instead, she defends Kyle firmly, leaving the Baron confused and disappointed. Laria bluntly says she's on Kyle's side because they're just business partners. She offers him an exclusive mining deal in Hanua at a fixed price in exchange for his cooperation. Ritsua accepts and gives her a ruby necklace, hoping to win her favor. It's as if Seymour Ritsua is into her, or maybe not? Laria notes that Ritsua and the princess have eerily similar tastes in jewelry, masks, and style. She quietly thinks they make a perfect couple. As she leaves to check another mask shop, neither notices a silver-haired man watching. Evan's secret guard assigned to protect her. It's the night of the masquerade, and Laria arrives at the palace only to see a note that the banquet hall is temporarily closed due to overcrowding. Though disappointed, she waits outside. The godmother appears, dramatically dressed as a dark magician with a fly-trap mask and purple feathered parrot. Laria comments on her bold outfit, prompting laughter and a cheerful apology. The godmother claims she didn't recognize Laria because of her mask. After a brief conversation, the godmother leaves Laria alone. Her aunt, even in her old age, is really into a unique style and is very lively. Laria reminds herself of her goals. Give the music box to the princess and check on her business with Seymour. A few months ago, she and Seymour planned to run a booth offering fortunes inside cookies. The idea had seemed risky, but now it's clearly a success. Laria spots the princess picking out a fortune cookie. The princess reads hers and lights up, clearly pleased with the message. But Laria knows all the fortunes are pre-written, with only positive words inside. Out of curiosity, Laria takes one for herself. To her surprise, the fortune reads, "Be open to the possibility of defeat. You are not the only one keeping your true feelings secret." Her second cookie says she must not take tonight lightly, even after today. Be careful with your words and actions. Laria blinks in shock, unsettled by the unexpected message. Unlike the cheerful fakes, this feels personal, as if someone tailored it just for her. She now wonders if tonight will bring more than just business and banter. As music fills the air and masked guests laugh and mingle, Laria clutches the note tightly. She doesn't know what the message means, but she senses a shift in the air. Something is about to change, and she needs to be ready. What could that be? Laria and the princess climb to a quiet tower where Laria finally hands over the music box. The princess hugs it tightly, saying it's the only item left from her mother after the king burned everything else. Tears fill her eyes as she confesses that surviving in the palace feels like being trapped. She shares her plan to submit a divorce law, just as her mother once wished. Becoming empress with competing heirs is a heavy burden, but she's determined. Laria listens closely and encourages her, knowing she will also benefit from the divorce. The fortune cookie was right about the princess's fortune, to express herself to the person she wants to get close with. Laria plans to run away since Evan might fall for the princess. As she reflects on their earlier bet, the princess asks her to stay just a little longer. Suddenly, a parade of knights with swords marches through the courtyard below. Laria remembers Evan's trauma, something only she knows about. Without thinking, she runs through the crowd to search for him, her heart racing. Evan finds her first, making him the winner of their bet, but she grabs his hand and pulls him away until the parade ends. As the tension lifts, Laria suddenly slips from the balcony. Evan catches her mid-fall and lands on the ground with her safely in his arms. Her voice shakes as she apologizes, but Evan holds her close, overwhelmed by the sound of her heartbeat against his chest. "Laria, he likes you!" They sit down, breathless, until Laria tries to stand again and winces. Her ankle is sprained. Evan quickly lifts her into a bridal carry and runs to a quiet corner to tend to her. Laria blushes, confused by the feelings rising in her heart. Evan finishes tending to Laria's sprained ankle, but his thoughts are still scattered. They walk together under the night sky, watching masked guests dance to soft music. The lights and laughter feel distant as something unspoken lingers between them. He reminds her that he won the bet, which makes Laria inwardly panic. She hoped he had forgotten, but clearly he hasn't. Curious and nervous, she asks what his wish is. Without hesitation, Evan says he wants her not to leave him. Laria freezes, her heart pounding as guilt rushes in. She had planned to escape, and now he's asking her to stay. It must be fate. Evan speaks honestly but vaguely, not fully confessing but not hiding either. His words stir something in her, making her heart respond in a way she can't ignore. For a moment, the world fades around them, and they are all that exists. Laria asks directly if he likes her. Evan hesitates, then denies it, saying he wants her to be his #1 best friend. When she asks who's #2, Laria's ankle hurts, making him unable to respond. He gives her a piggyback ride to the carriage, quietly flustered still. Meanwhile, Baron Ritsua and the princess finally meet, just as Laria had planned. Everything seems to be falling into place in her perspective. As they ride back, Evan suddenly says there's no second best friend, only her. Laria blushes, her heart fluttering, but she senses he's still holding back. Though married, he keeps a distance, cautious with his feelings. See? It's gotta be you! At the same time, Baron Ritsua talks to the princess about Laria. He blushes slightly as he mentions how Laria's support of the divorce law inspired him. The princess, touched, feels even more determined to make change happen. In the quiet carriage, Laria stares out the window, her mind replaying Evan's words from earlier. His wish, his gaze, the way he carried her, it all stirs something deep inside. She blushes, wondering if she's allowed to see him as more than a friend or family. She tells herself it's fine if she ends up liking him as a man. It doesn't change her plans, but it changes how her heart reacts. Every time he's near, it feels like something she's kept buried is beginning to bloom. Evan, sitting across from her, quietly berates himself for slipping up during the ball. When she fell on top of him, he almost lost control. He saw her the moment she arrived, but didn't approach. He simply wanted to watch her a little longer. When he noticed the princess approaching her, he stayed back, knowing Laria values privacy. Still, it bothered him more than it should have. And when Baron Ritsua started looking for Laria, Evan's jealousy exploded beneath his calm exterior. He hates how the Baron smiles so easily, how successful and composed he seems. He envies his confidence, his regional closeness to Laria, even his ability to give her expensive gifts without hesitation. The thought of someone else standing at Laria's side makes his fists clench. At the same time, he worries about her health, her condition, her emotional state, her fragile frame. Just having her in the Icarus state brings him comfort, but also fear that one day she'll disappear without warning. These feelings have grown quietly, dangerously. He's literally in love. When they arrive, he finds Laria fast asleep in the carriage. Gently, he carries her to her room as if she might shatter. Watching her sleep peacefully, he brushes a strand of hair from her cheek. He wonders if she likes him and if she'd stay because of that, or out of kindness. If he confessed, would she feel obligated to return his feelings? But if she ever got pregnant and something happened to her, he knows he would never forgive himself. Keeping his feelings hidden and staying beside her feels like the safest choice. He convinces himself it's enough. As she sleeps, he presses a soft kiss on her forehead. It's all he allows himself. For now, loving her silently feels like the only way to protect her. Laria prepares to leave when Evan comes to check on her ankle. The moment he hears she's heading out, he sighs quietly. She notices the subtle disappointment in his eyes, though his face is hard to read. She starts to doubt everything from the ball, wondering if she just imagined his feelings. He once said he didn't like her, yet his actions keep contradicting that. Still, she convinces herself it must have been a misunderstanding. You two should talk it out. Evan offers to go with her, saying he's also headed to the magic tower to print the photos he took of her. Magic is restricted in the Empire, only allowed inside the magic tower with noble and imperial approval. The tower is also one of the few places where magical items can still be traded. Evan gave Marcel the treasure of divine power since it's useless to Laria. She doesn't need the treasure of anti-magic either, but the ancient scroll book that holds magical scrolls catches her interest. It may be the key to her escape. Even if it's dangerous, Laria insists they visit the scroll library inside the magic tower. She sweetly convinces Evan by suggesting they make memories together since they'll be apart for 2 months. He gives in, unable to resist her pleading smile. As they explore the tower, Laria senses how even the Holy Temple and Magic Tower are slowly falling into the hands of commerce. Just as Evan is ready to leave, she spots something and insists on staying longer. She wants to find the scroll book, her main reason for coming. To distract him, she uses her puppy eyes and clings to the moment. Evan can't say no when she looks at him like that. He really can't say no to her. They walk through the halls together when Laria suddenly spots Mador, the man who once tried to assassinate her. She freezes. The moment she thought was peaceful shifts into something far more dangerous. Laria freezes when she spots Mador leaving the room marked as the Truth Potion research. Evan notices her distracted expression and explains that some magicians use dark magic, which causes unpredictable distortions. But Laria's mind latches onto Mador. Why is an assassin interested in truth potions? She grows more curious and asks about the potion inside. A researcher explains that the truth potion forces people to speak honestly once they inhale the vapor. However, the smoke targets a random person nearby and only works for 30 minutes, making it unsuitable for public use. They don't sell it, but accept donations for research. Laria and Evan are about to leave when she accidentally bumps into a low shelf. A small vial tumbles down and shatters, releasing silvery smoke that fills the room in seconds. Evan acts on instinct and shields Laria, covering her nose and dragging her outside. She coughs slightly, but he's more worried. He doesn't realize the smoke affected him instead. When she turns to ask if he's okay, Evan blurts out a rushed confession. He tells her that he's scared when she's hurt, that he wants to hold her close, hug, and wants the way she touches him. His voice is soft but firm, as if the truth can't be held back anymore. Laria stares at him, her chest tightening with every word. He quickly catches himself, looking away, asking for a moment to breathe. Laria doesn't push him further, even though her heart is pounding in her ears. She knows the effects of the potion may fade, but his words already left a mark. Hoping he slips and speaks his true feelings for her. As they pass the ancient scroll section, she insists on entering. Evan lingers at the door, eyes fixed on her with a dazed look, still under the potion's influence. He admits quietly that he watches her hands, her smile, even the back of her neck. Snapping out of it, he opens the door for her, unwilling to let her go in alone. A floating book greets them and announces a magical bet. They must face a personal illusion and complete a quest to win. Before she can ask anything, Evan vanishes. Laria stands alone in something like a hallway, her reflection flickering in the glowing mirrors. The trial has begun. What will happen between the both of them next? Laria is lost with nothing to see or hear. Even Evan, who was just with her, is nowhere to be seen. Soon after, the talking scroll book responsible for this troublesome predicament explains the rules. She needs to endure the next 5 minutes of this illusion to win. She then ponders the possible illusions the book will subject her to. But no matter what, nothing can surpass what she has already experienced. So 5 minutes? Piece of cake! She then warps into the past, and before her is a 7-year-old Evan. He's currently talking with Beth, and this illusion seems to be the day he first entered the academy. He's disheartened, though. He wanted to say goodbye to his father, but he's not even around. It's then revealed that the same day he's going to attend the academy is also his birthday. Evan doesn't even want to celebrate, thinking that his father doesn't either, because he also feels his father is sending him away on his birthday. Just as he thinks the academy will be a better environment for him, these hopes shatter when he arrives to be greeted by tons of unpleasant gossip. No one even wants to go near him because they either feel intimidated or annoyed by him. That night, as Evan writes in his diary, he cries, wishing his mother were still alive, and desperately hopes to have a normal life. Seeing Evan break down like this also shatters Laria's heart. Meanwhile, the book deems this sight amusing. Moving on, they go to the time when Evan happily makes his new friend. But little does he know, it is just a ploy. Knowing where this goes aches Laria's heart. She's upset that she has to go through Evan's suffering just for a teleportation scroll. Though she wants this to stop, a demon barrier is preventing her from ending this illusion, leaving her no choice but to see it through to the end. It's probably the gift she received from Neo a while back. Later, Evan finds out that his friend is two-faced. It absolutely destroys him, and Laria has to endure this unfolding before her. It's already been 5 minutes, and the book is no longer amused. If it weren't for that barrier, he would have won the bet. Soon after, the book rewards her with the scroll. As the book hands her the scroll, it warns her that it senses an immense amount of power from her. But this doesn't mean she should get ahead of herself. She responds, claiming that she won't. The book then also tells her that she should get Evan. Apparently, he lost the bet, explaining that he had a different condition. He had to stop watching in 5 minutes to win. Evan is confident that he will be able to beat the scroll book. Come on, he already knows that it's an illusion, so why wouldn't he stop watching after 5 minutes? Suddenly, Laria comes out from behind and embraces him. As he turns his head, she goes for a kiss. Confused, he can't help but feel flustered. And upon closer inspection, small details such as the waist accessory she's wearing are inaccurate, meaning this is just an illusion. But she pins him down, making it hard for the flustered Evan to escape. Meanwhile, the real Laria is trying to wake a sleep-talking Evan. He seems to be dreaming about something inappropriate. After he regains consciousness, he feels suspiciously grateful to the scroll book. How far did Evan's illusions go? Seeing that he's still groggy from the illusions, they decide to go home. He then tells her that he'll just be alone since there's still time left, but Laria insists that they go together because she's concerned. Later, she tells Evan about what she saw in the illusions, but he's not happy about this because now she'll end up pitying him even more than she already does. However, she tells him that it's only natural for her to worry about him. Though he understands that she only means well, he doesn't like the idea that she still perceives him as that 13-year-old kid. He leans forward as he explains that what he wants is more than that, but before he can get close enough for a kiss or finish his sentence, he slams his head on a tree. This shocks her because of his impulsive actions. He then tells her to never mind what he said and that what he really wants to convey is that he just wants his childhood to be left alone. Evan stubbornly offers to carry her since she's having difficulty walking, as he noticed. He then expresses that he really doesn't want to be perceived as pitiful, but no matter how hard he tries to find something to do for her, he can't find anything. But she disagrees, stating that he's already doing so much for her. She can list so many things he's done. Even what he considers trivial isn't really trivial at all. She is so grateful that he's making her feel this way. Soon after, the two go their own ways, and it won't be until 2 months before they can see each other again. Claudin ponders the next course of action regarding the Emperor. Though he was able to manage thanks to Laria, who knows how long that will last? He also suspects that Duke Orlando is scheming to create a dispute between him and the Emperor. Shortly, Mirande arrives to relay good news. There's a new iron ore deposit. Relieved, Claudin feels as though there is someone protecting their family. Suddenly, Serena arrives. After the brief pleasantries, he states that Laria's health has been deteriorating. Though they had initially thought she was fine, her health has been in decline. Serena then explains that Laria's condition is uncommon, and despite her outward appearance seeming fine, it is actually the opposite deep inside. She continues by saying it would not be a surprise if Laria passes away anytime soon. Claudin exclaims, but he can't seem to put his frustrations into words. After he orders Serena to leave, he feels bad for Evan because he's subjecting him to experience the same thing he did. At the Ritua mansion, Laria is happily greeted by Seymour, who tells her he's looking forward to talking with her after so long. But after enough flattery, she tells him directly the purpose of her visit. But he insists on having their discussion in the garden. Though she wants to prevent rumors from spreading, since this will be the last time she discusses these matters with him, she agrees. Later, Seymour hands over the settlement cost, overjoyed upon seeing her earnings. Afterwards, he brings up the legal story the princess mentioned, to which she says it would be a great idea and that she's sure it will pass. Seymour is delighted to hear her say that, which she notices, wondering if Eilani would like his smile more over Evan's. Soon after, he brings up another topic, about the ancient magic item. But before she can even hear the rest, Laria immediately leaves, thinking that she has to meet Marcel and get her ankle treated as well. Afterward, Laria meets with Serena to have her ankle treated. Once treated, Marcel shows up, and once they settle down, she asks if he will be sad if she goes missing. He is quite unsure because he's honestly really happy that he gets to interact with an ordinary person. Shortly after, she tells him to be wary of a man named Seymour since he's obsessed with ancient artifacts and is after him. Because of that, he can't even visit her. After warning him, they shake hands as a farewell. Since preparations are complete, Laria wants to leave now, but is concerned that this may become a hassle for Claudin. Shortly after, Serena arrives asking when she's going to leave. It seems that she's quite disheartened that their time spent together will come to an end. 2 months later, Laria visits the capital for the last time as an Ickard. But upon arrival, she finds out that Claudine and Olivia will be there soon. Laria realizes that the plot is fast approaching the time when a bomb explodes. Luckily, in the novel, it only exploded when Duke Ickard was present, so there were no casualties. However, because of her intervention, that could change. Not knowing which package contains the explosive, she orders Mirande to have all the packages delivered to her room, since she's also trying to erase traces of her. The bomb exploding in her room would be hitting 2 birds with 1 stone. Mirande then asks her when she's finally going to take over the estate so that he can hand over some tasks to her. That's what the Duke and Evan think as well, but her health should be the top priority. Seeing that the servants are very enthusiastic about this, she then accepts the offer, though it's only a matter of time before she disappears. She then heads to the library and checks the documents. Later that night, as anticipated, Laria wakes up from an explosion. Now she has to sleep in Evan's room since her room blew up. But Evan is quite hesitant. He's just too embarrassed. Lisa tells Laria the only clothes left to sleep in are revealing summer outfits, prompting Evan's nose to erupt blood like a volcano. Seeing how worried Evan is for her, Laria decides to work hard to lessen his workload. Later that night, Mirande heeds her summon. She then informs him that she's already finished the task he gave her. On top of that, she also updates him about the fines and how to deal with them. He is impressed. He never thought she had a talent for such tricks. But she tells him not to disclose any of this yet, as it could stir up trouble, and knowing how busy they are, she doesn't want that. After working, she heads to Evan's room, takes a shower, and changes into sleeping attire. Meanwhile, Evan is trying his best not to be tempted, even going as far as to recite a hymn despite not being baptized. As he turns his head, he sees her wearing a very revealing dress, which he swiftly covers, making her confused. Her confusion grows when Evan starts working out. In reality, he's just trying his best to distract himself. Laria finds Evan's recent actions really strange, but not wanting to pay it more heed, she decides to sleep on it. The following morning, upon Claudine and Olivia's arrival, they immediately worry and check on Laria. Meanwhile, Evan looks like he didn't get any sleep last night. Shortly after, since everyone is present and very well dressed, Mirande proposes taking a photo of the 4. This photo kicks off the last event Laria is ever going to attend with the Ickard family. Imperial balls are one of the most anticipated events among members of high society. Unfortunately, since Laria is just a terminally ill side character, she deems such events trivial and unimportant. But she'd be lying if she said she never thought of becoming the recipient of all the gossip. But then again, the story and her character are awful, so she has to disappear without a trace. Upon entering the venue, Laria can't help but be mesmerized by the exquisite atmosphere and intricate decorations. She really can't help but feel somewhat enthusiastic about this banquet. Shortly after, they are greeted by Elani, who then tells Laria a secret only a few people know. The reason she tells her this is to show her sincerity in wanting to build a close relationship with her. Laria is confused. Why would Elani, soon to be Evan's wife, want to build a connection with her? Elani then asks if she can have a dance with her, but before she can even finish asking, Evan interrupts, telling her to stop pestering Laria. Not wanting the situation to escalate, Laria explains to the princess that she can't promise to have the next dance because of her illness, which Elani understands. When the first music starts, Evan immediately asks Laria for the first dance, though she wonders why he's dancing so slowly. He explains that he's trying to be careful since he's worried about her ankles. Soon after, she notices that Claudine, Duke Orlando, and the Emperor are having wine together. Something new because Claudine doesn't usually drink wine much. Perhaps he's trying to get on the Emperor's good side so he can push Evan and Elani together. After their dance, Evan excuses himself to get some water, and shortly after he leaves, Laria sees Zerdi, the man who betrayed Evan. She then wonders if this is a good opportunity to avenge Evan, and just in time, Seymour arrives. She quickly asks him to call the maid Zerde has been berating. Following that, she also asks Seymour to request a second dance with her. Meanwhile, Evan just returned with Laria's glass of water in hand, but behold the sight he sees. Laria dancing with Seymour, prompting him to break the glass in anger. Laria just wanted to ask Seymour to dance so they couldn't speak privately because she needed a favor from him. She never expected Evan to get the wrong idea. But what's done is done. Evan is visibly upset, though unbeknownst to Laria, who's completely clueless about his feelings. After their dance, Evan quickly asks her how she's feeling, since she danced 2 songs in a row. She's still quite distracted looking at the general, Seymour, the man she recently danced with, who's currently talking with Zerdy. She explains that she's looking at the person who betrayed him, making Evan upset for the scroll book's disservice. But then again, it also showed him something he was very interested in seeing. Laria is disheartened. Why would Evan let Zerdy go scot-free? He was so mean to him. Seeing her visible sadness, he tells her that it's all in the past and that all he's asking is for her to look at other men, because if she does, it makes him want to fabricate his smile. Shortly after, a fight breaks out between Ailani and Lady Olivia, prompting Evan to leave Laria for a bit to take hold of the situation. Coincidentally, this is also Laria's chance to rendezvous with Seymour, since she really wants to exact revenge against Zerdy. She just sympathizes with him. That's why she's willing to go to all lengths for him. Even the matter regarding Rosalie, she intervened. The more she thinks about it, the more she realizes that perhaps she really does like Evan after all. Her feelings have been hidden for a long time because they're just married by name. So what exactly does she do with this newly acknowledged feeling now? Little did Laria know that her feelings towards Evan would come to light. Then again, if he ever grows the same feelings, it would cause a lot of trouble. Sadly, at least that's what she thinks. Shortly, Seymour arrives, telling her that he already took action as she requested. He then hands her a check from Zerdy, claiming that it was easy to acquire since he's easily blinded by money. After expressing her thanks, she tells him to go. Perhaps Ailani is already looking for him. But he says he prefers spending time with her more, which makes her confused. She wonders if he likes Ailani at all. She then asks why they had the first dance to begin with, to which he responds that it was a way to prevent high society from thinking Ailani favors a certain noble family. He then tells her that he doesn't like her romantically, more like he resonates with her philosophy, especially about divorce, because if divorce becomes a thing, then perhaps he may be able to covet a certain someone. It then dawns on Laria that the plot has changed in ways that the main leads now go after the side character, such as her. But why though? She wasn't particularly nice to him. He tells her that they just have so many things in common and that they complement each other so well. Since she knows she's responsible for the change of trajectory in the story, she decides to be blunt with Seymour and reject him gracefully. As she wonders what else will change among the relationships in the story, she notices Claudine about to be poisoned by a servant of Duke Orlando, but he doesn't seem to be listening. Laria quickly rushes over to him, but Evan sees her and shouts to be careful because her ankle is injured. Upon hearing this, Ailani and Olivia exclaim, and the three of them gather around her worried. Shortly after, a drunk Claudine approaches them, adding to the crowd and calling for all the doctors so that they can treat her. Laria tries her best to take control of the situation and contain Claudine, or else she'll be found out for pretending to be sick all along. Noticing that the Emperor is looking for Claudine, she redirects the Duke to the Emperor instead, but Claudine refuses, saying that he doesn't want to be with a loser who messes with his dead wife. Everyone is shocked by what he suddenly said. Then it dawns on Laria. It must be the truth potion. Luckily, the Emperor didn't hear anything because he was drunk, but it will surely leak. She then tells Evan that they should take Claudine since he inhaled the truth potion, just like what happened with him in the tower. As they leave, Laria bids farewell as if going to be the last time. Soon after, she talks with Olivia, who regrets not having trained her well. No thanks to her sickness. After their brief chat, Laria expresses her goodbye and gratitude. Though Olivia is a bit concerned about what Laria is saying, she pays it no further heed and leaves after Laria's assurance. Soon after, Lisa arrives, and Laria quickly orders her to tell Mirande to turn off the lights for the Duke. Despite Lisa's confusion, Laria continues expressing her thanks for everything she's done for her. She really likes Lisa and has grown attached to her, but she has to bid her farewell too. As she finishes saying goodbye to everyone, she silently wishes each and every one of them well. Upon Serena's arrival, Laria wastes no time and tells her that the time to escape is now. Laria ponders that her leaving would allow Alane and Evan to marry, and especially since Seymour is no longer in the picture, their marriage will flourish. Soon after that, Claudine will also turn back time and bring back Matilda. That's what Evan wanted in the illusion, to live a normal life and to have his mother back. Laria can relate to him, which is why she wants this to happen badly. If his mother lives, he won't have to be subjected to all the trauma he experienced in this life. Claudine will also succeed in being a good father, and Olivia won't have to regret losing Matilda. This is a happy ending for everyone. Laria thinks that once she disappears, people will no longer perceive her as weak, but rather as someone formidable. Before teleporting to Livonis, She asks Serena to deliver a letter to the Ickard estate in the morning. Meanwhile, Evan ponders Laria's words. It really seems like she's going to disappear based on how she said her farewell. Upon arriving at the estate, Lisa immediately looks for Laria, who apparently isn't with them. Evan also thought she'd be with her, so why isn't she? Upon realizing that no one has been with or seen Laria return, Evan commands all the guards of the estate to wake up and look for Laria this instant. And that's it for today, guys. What did you think? As always, don't forget to like the video and comment for the next part so we know you want more. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications for updates. See you in the next